Hi everyone, a very good afternoon to you. Welcome to the Automotodrome Brno for the fourth round of the Ferrari Challenge Europe for 2025. Here we are then, the Czech Republic, and we're about to give you our formal welcome, if you will, to this extraordinary track. I say extraordinary for so many reasons here. The Automotodrome Brno, it's a very undulating track which has recently been resurfaced. Here is the formal welcome. And that is what the track looks like from a very high photograph. And as you can see, the newly resurfaced tarmac is damp at the moment. We are about halfway stage through our 2025 season, having been to Monza, to Misano, to Hockenheim. Here we are in the Czech Republic before 2 weekends in Spain, ahead of Belgium with Spa-Francorchamps, and then the world final event is being held this year in Tuscany in Mugello. Mid-October, very much looking forward to that. A lot of racing to be done. There is the threat, the constant threat of the rain. Track temperature currently 22 degrees, the air temperature is 19 degrees. Now, there was a fairly significant and sustained rain shower just maybe 20 or so minutes ago, and that means that the track is now wet. We are being told that the start of this race will be behind the safety car. Ordinarily a formation lap behind the Richard Mille safety car, but actually the safety car being driven this weekend by Antonio Tamburini, a fine racing driver in his own right, and he will be driving the safety car this weekend, and he will be leading the cars away on the start. The start will come behind the safety car. It's our Copa Shell drivers that will be the first to show, and we're about 7.5 minutes from the start of the race getting underway. Let me introduce my colleague alongside me here, Nico Spelek. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome here to Brno. And yeah, you already mentioned the start will be behind the safety car, and that will mean that the clock will start ticking the moment the safety car pulls away. So effectively, whenever the safety car comes in, we will have time having elapsed already. So effectively, a shorter race. And for sure, a race that will be started and conducted on wet weather tires.
Thank you, Nico. This is Manuela Gosner, who's going from P3 on the grid. Second row start for her then. She was not allowed on the front row by dint of the fact Willem van der Voort and NM were marginally quicker. Qualifying took place dry this morning. Qualifying was a hard-fought affair, it has to be said, and Willem van der Voort making his return to racing put it on P2, but it was NM, the Rosso Corsa driver, who took it to pole position, earned an extra point because you gain a point for pole position, and NM, who, as I say, was victorious in the second race at Hockenheim, took P1 pole position, gained that extra point. And of course it gives him, arguably though, the most advantageous starting position ordinarily. I think that's negated a little bit when we're starting behind the safety car. This is Thomas Gosner, who's going from P8. He couldn't really get it all together in qualifying, he was telling me earlier on. He has his daughter Manuela, who we saw just a few moments ago, going from P3, and his other daughter, Corinna, going from P10 on the grid. This is John Dillon, the Formula Racing driver, who's got a second row start, goes from P4. John could very much be a danger man from there, so we'll see what he's able to deliver in this race. I mentioned Hockenheim, which was the last round of the Ferrari Challenge. Let's relive the action that happened in that part of Germany. So there was the drama from Hockenheim, and well, in race 1 in particular, Oscar Rinčević trying so hard in the final corner of the final lap to take the win away from Manuel Gostner, but he was unable to do that. Oscar is not with us this weekend. I think he has some personal things that he has to attend to. Many congratulations, Oscar. Willem van der Vorm then returns to the Ferrari Challenge. And great to see the official Scuderia Ferrari Monte Carlo driver back, and he goes from P2. Also great to see back Ray Acosta in the 107 car. Ray Acosta drives for the collection, Miami, and he splits his Ferrari Challenge driving both here in Europe and also in North America as well, and he's a formidable driver, and Ray Acosta could be another very dangerous driver going from P6 on the grid. Ferrari ambassador driver Giancarlo Fisichella there. To his left is Antonio Tamburini, our safety car driver. To the right is Lucio Vigani, who is head of Pirelli Motorsport for Ferrari Challenge, Pirelli tyres. So great to see those in conversation. And here is von Skeltermar, who is going from P7 on the grid with the shark's teeth fronted Ferrari 296 Challenge car, which has become synonymous with the number 177 and the name von Skeltermar. So it'll be very good to see what Fons can do in conditions that I would think will play into Fons's hands a little bit. So it's not raining right now, but there is a lot of water around on the track, and that's why the start is going to be behind the safety car as decreed by race control. So, and as Nico had said earlier on, once the safety car has pulled off then and left or leads the cars around the lap, then the race will have effectively started. The Ferrari Challenge runs not only here in Europe, but also in the UK and North America, as we've mentioned with Ray Acosta. Also, for the first time this year in Australasia. And, of course, we race in Japan as well. So the Ferrari Challenge stretches its tentacles all around the world and is the most revered one-make series in the world of international motorsport. And it's great that it's enjoyed on so many continents. And let's take a look at what happened last time around for our Japan drivers. Whichever region of the Ferrari Challenge you race in, one thing remains paramount, and that is the passion that every driver, every competitor enjoys racing with this wonderful Ferrari brand. So this is the 5.4-kilometer Brno circuit, and it has 15 turns, 9 of them left, and 6 of them left, I should say. 9 of them are right-handers. And there's some real elevation changes around this circuit as well. Formally opened in 1987. Stand by, race start is on its way. And the race has officially started. The lights are green. The safety car is leading the cars away, and therefore the race has started. As you said, Nico, what happens is, in a situation like this, the clock starts counting down immediately. Therefore, it is going to be a shorter race. My guess is that probably the safety car will stay out for 2 laps to give the drivers the time to acclimatise to not only the weather conditions in terms of the grip, but more importantly, visibility, which will be at a premium.
Yeah, absolutely. Visibility is going to be one thing, and obviously nothing has been going around the track as we have a look at the grid first.
From back to front, Ruslan Sadriyev goes from P6. From P10, it's Corinna Gostner. It's Zoe Skrimpias out of position going from P9. Thomas Gerstner and Fons Skeltermar. That's a dangerous row, P8 and P7. Ray Acosta going from P6 and Ernst Kirkmeyer going from P5 on the grid to the second row, where we find John Dillon and Manuel Gerstner, both two drivers that will be wanting to go forward and usurp those that are ahead, which are Willem van der Vorm and NM going from pole position. P1 for NM, hot off the victory that he took in race 2 at Hockenheim. And in these torrid weather conditions right now, let's hear from our pole sitter.
Very happy for the result. I need to say a big thank you from my team, Rosso Corsa team, Andrazzata. A big thank you with big hug of my coach Cristiano Giardina and racetrack coach Cairoli Matteo, and I'm very happy. Thank you very much.
Really nice when racing drivers choose to credit their driver coaches, who of course do everything they can to make their students even better drivers. And yeah, really nice to see that. So well done, NM, and well done for your qualifying as well, going from P1 on the grid. Visibility perhaps not going to be quite as compromised here as it could be at some other tracks, because, Nico, there are not any really long straights here.
Yeah, the average speed here in Brno is not nearly as high as it would be in Monza or even Hockenheim. And I think just remember that we didn't have any really meaningful track activities for the last hour and a half. So a lot of standing water, especially with the elevation change. So that has to be dissipated, and those 2 laps or whatever it's going to be as race control decides will certainly help to get rid of some of the puddles and the standing water. And when race control and the safety, with the input of the safety car, will feel it's safe to go racing, that's when we will get the indication the safety car will come in. Certainly not on this lap, maybe on the next one. As you can see already, 3 minutes have ticked off the clock, but as always, safety is of the paramount importance.
Indeed it is. So we can't second guess what race control are going to say, but I imagine with, as you say, the visibility and conditions the way they are, I think at least another lap behind the safety car. Generally what happens is the second lap becomes a bit quicker than the first, and that's just acclimatizing the drivers up to a condition where, and up to a speed which is getting a little bit closer to what you would expect to have during the course of the race. Now, Antonio Tamburini, who is driving the Richard Mills safety car, he knows a thing or two about racing, been a hugely successful driver in his own right, and all the safety car drivers that are used by Ferrari are indeed those with pedigree, it has to be said, and therefore he knows how to, you could just see, forgive me interrupting myself there, John Dillon giving it a footful, and you can see the back end of the car snaking a little bit. I'm just really craning outside of our window on the start-finish straight here. It's to my knowledge, it's absolutely not raining now. But it is definitely really wet in some parts of the track, certainly more so than others. And delighted that a driver is with us as well, and he's just looked even harder than me out of the window. And yeah, it's touch and go. There's plenty of cloud around. We're never far away from the threat of that rain. Safety car will come in at the end of this lap.
Yeah, absolutely, and the drivers will have been advised by their teams that this is the case. Here you have it in graphics, and that means the final stages of preparation for the race to go underway in earnest are going on inside those cockpits now.
Absolutely right. So now it's all eyes on and all your thoughts towards preparing yourselves. The drivers will have been made aware of the fact that the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. And well, lights stay on the safety car for the moment. There you can see now the speed cam is certainly here in Brno, not something that is illustrative of the normal speed of these wonderful 296 challenge cars, and that's primarily because they don't run really close to the fence here anywhere at the Brno circuit. The topography is such that that is not the case, but of course the speed is going to be compromised anyway by the conditions. So we're standing by then, and every driver going through a sequence of thought process as best they can as to how this is going to work for them. Looking back from the Richard Mills safety car at the NM car, Willem van der Vorm P2, then it's Manuel Gerstner, John Dillon, Ernst Kirkmeyer. Wherever you look through this 11-strong grid of Copa-Shell drivers, there are race winners in there. And every single one of them worthy of taking the checkered flag and taking P1. Therefore, it means it is going to be, even in these conditions, quite an exciting race, because there are a number of drivers, in my opinion, which counts for nothing, but in my opinion, that are out of position from qualifying earlier on today. Whether they just couldn't get the measure of this or not. Safety car then has peeled off into the pit lane, and now we go racing proper. John Dillon immediately trying to get to the inside of Manuel Agostner. Then as they head up towards turn number 1, it's NM followed by Willem van der Vorm. John Dillon looking lively, so too Manuel Agostner, able to carry more speed. Ernst Kirkmeyer going around the outside of John Dillon. John trying to pick up a place, ends up losing one. So it is NM, Willem van der Vorm, Manuel Agostner, John Dillon, and Ernst Kirkmeyer absolutely side by side, and I think Kirkmeyer has got the measure of it, and yes, he does move up ahead of the 151 car of John Dillon, and now he's on the back of Manuel Agostner, currently running in P3. NM, of course, what he will try and do is just break away from the rest of the pack, and that's made even more easy for him by virtue of the fact that he is kicking up spray for every other driver. Their visibility is compromised, his is not, by virtue of the fact he's got clear track ahead of him.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the big advantage, especially in these conditions. Not to mention that Brno is traditionally a difficult circuit to overtake, and even more here and now. Willem van der Vorm, good defense, but Manuel Agostner looks like she's possibly a little bit quicker. Ernst Kirchmeier, we know, is magnificent in the rain. We've seen him win races in the rain, in the snow, and he really feels at home here.
You're absolutely right. Just wonder how Manuel Agostner is going to be able to deal with Willem van der Vorm ahead. Willem returning to racing. You can see how close they are. She can afford to run close, providing the visibility is not compromised too much down this sequence of turns 5, 6, and 7, which I absolutely love. You roll downhill, and the camber of the corner tries to draw your car to the outside, which is exactly what happens to Willem van der Vorm, which almost opens up a window for Manuel Agostner, but she's not quite close enough to be able to take advantage. And here we can see the NM car, and that spray coming off the back of the car and also off the Willem van der Vorm car. You can see there as Manuel Agostner tries to go alongside Willem van der Vorm. This is the fight that's going on for P2. And in fairness, she put her nose just where it wasn't wanted. Willem, though, has kept his cool, but Manuela carries more momentum. Is she able to hold on to this through the final turn? If she is, then she can put her nose in front going into turn number 1, and she has done it. And here comes Ernst Kirkmeyer trying to mug Willem van der Vorm at exactly the same time. That was a really good move by Manuel Agostner, who set that up a couple of corners before she actually executed it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we just saw Ray Acosta, who had moved up a number of places already. Stayed where he is, but he lost a few spots initially, and he's moved back up from Skeltemer, so running in P6 after making a couple of overtakes. And yeah, there is Manuel Agostner, there is Willem van der Vorm, who now obviously finds himself troubled by Ernst Kirchmeier. And there is Ray Acosta and von Skeltemer, the shark, in these conditions, feeling quite at home as well. He would like to move up the order, showed some great speed at Hockenheim. P7 for the time being, not where he would like himself to be.
I would say the most experienced Ferrari Challenge Europe driver in the pack for this race is von Skeltemer. Ahead of him, Ray Acosta. We know how lively Ray Acosta is, both not only here in Europe, but also in North America too. And there is Ernst Kirchmeier then continuing to hound Willem van der Vorm. John Dillon, and we can hear some protesting Pirelli P0s, and they were being protested by Ray Acosta and von Skeltemer. Now Ray has managed to get it back onto the tarmac. I don't know whether Fons has done so. I think he was still moving, yes. So von Skeltemer continues, both of the drivers continue, but that has cost them a valuable time on track. There's no question. How did it happen? We'll find out in a moment. Meantime, this is Manuela Gostner and a replay of her opportunistic move. But what she did here was harried Willem van der Vorm. And from that point on, that was where the overtake was started. And she just had to stay with very, very large confidence to make the overtake happen. And she did. Now, this was Ray Acosta and von Skeltemer. Ray onto the curbs. And then just tagging the back end of von Skeltemer. Absolutely nothing malicious in that. Just a very, very unfortunate situation. and Ray will be the first to hold his hands up, I feel sure.
Yeah, I'm sure race control will certainly have a look at that as well. In the meantime, because we don't see him anymore on screen, and with a 4.1 second gap towards anybody else, led by Manuel Agostino. So absolutely maximizing the advantage of having clear visibility and just moving clear of the rest of the pack as Willem van der Boom holds off Ernst Kirchmeier for the time being. And it's a little bit, it's a gamble trying to overtake, because even though there is not a dry line on the racing line, obviously you have more confidence in the grip level where you're going around regularly. If you go offline, I can only imagine that that becomes more treacherous.
I think you are absolutely right. I'm delighted to say that Andreas Koenig has came to join us to watch a little bit of the race. And you've got to perform in these conditions in a few moments, and I can already see, he doesn't want to talk on the air, but I can see almost the worry concerns on the forehead, Nico.
Yeah, great to have some guests here and shaking his hand.
Yes.
I don't know if it's about us or if it's about the conditions.
I think it's probably about me. But anyway, great to have you here, Andreas, and good luck for your race to come. And he's picking up as much as he can by watching this race, and that's very, very clever. Now, the incident involving cars 107 and 177 in turn 8 is under investigation. That will come up on screen for you. And basically, that was that almost innocuous touch from Ray Acosta, who was doing everything he could to avoid it, who just tagged the back of Fons Skeltermar, which sent Fons around regrettably. Meantime, it's NM, Manuel Agostino and Willem van der Boom remaining the top 3, but Ernst Kirchmeier is doing everything he can. I have to say, it's been good defensive driving from Willem van der Boom on Ernst Kirchmeier. Ernst has tried everywhere he can, but he hasn't made the execution quite as well as Manuel Agostino, although Willem just lost a little bit of the back end there, but he's been able to close the door once again on Ernst Kirchmeier. So he lives to fight another lap in P3 as he closes out that lap and puts it in the book. We're approaching 17 minutes remaining plus 1 lap in this Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell race. We are delighted that you are with us here in difficult weather conditions, which the drivers are coping with admirably, I have to say. NM from Manuel Agostino, Willem van der Boom, then it's Ernst Kirchmeier. They are your top 4.
Yeah, absolutely. And behind those two is John Dillon. And as Ernst Kirchmeier is having another look on the inside, looking. Is there an opening? Willem van der Boom again runs wide, and I think he ran too wide there. And indeed, Ernst Kirchmeier seizes the opportunity.
It's pressure, constant pressure. If you keep the pressure on, at some point, surely you're going to lose just a milliseconds of concentration, and that's enough. And that's what happened. Through has gone Ernst Kirchmeier, and Willem van der Boom then is relegated to that P4 position.
Yeah, and behind him is John Dillon. I was about to say that even though the two in front of him were fighting, John wasn't really able to get on terms with them and join that battle. Now it's going to be interesting if, with Willem van der Boom not involved in the battle, will Willem be able to pick up the pace, or will John be able to get on terms with him? Here's a replay.
So it was just a wrong-footed move, wasn't it, from Willem just for a moment. I have to say, I think the back end of Ernst's car was a bit side. Look, just then, I just thought, he's carrying a bit too much speed. But to be fair to him, he controlled it beautifully and went through. And in fairness, healthy respect between all the drivers as there are racing room is being given by all. We're on board with Thomas Gosner. Now, this is a replay of that earlier incident which saw Ray Acosta just tag Fons Skeltermar. This is NM, who we've not seen a lot of, and there's confirmation of that incident that I said was going to be under investigation. We are with our race leader, NM, who was victorious in Hockenheim. He's about to put another lap inside and head on his merry way. Some 7 seconds up the road from Manuel Agostino. And look at this, sets the fastest lap at 2:10.775. That's not reflective of the speed of these phenomenal 296 Challenge cars because, of course, the weather conditions are wet. There's Andrea from Rosso Corsa, team boss, watching on, because it is his driver that's leading the way. It's Rosso Corsa from Nico Rapada, Corsa Ram and Kessel racing the top 3 as Ray Acosta and Zoe Skrimpias trade places. And we'll see what happens here between Zoe Skrimpias and Ray Acosta. Zoe Skrimpias, who was something of a wonder driver, is something of a wonder driver. I shouldn't say was, he is. He came into Ferrari Challenge racing for the first time last year in the Cope Shell category, won the championship by a margin, has been elevated into Shell from Shell Am, and it has to be said he's found the competition stiffer in Shell, which is completely correct, but it's only his second season of competitive driving, Nico. It's a remarkable story of the Ferrari Challenge.
Yeah, and he actually leads the championship coming into this weekend by a small margin. And now we get indication that a time penalty is coming, and that I can only assume is for Ray Acosta's touch. It's a 10-second penalty on Ray Acosta. I think is fair. Not that there was anything malicious, but certainly he helped von Skeltema spin around, and help is probably exactly the wrong word, but yeah. Just bear in mind, Ernst Kirchmeier has closed the gap a little bit towards Manuel Agostner, but not in huge bunches. So after he's been released from Willem van der Waal, he was able to get a little bit closer for P2, but Manuel Agostner now again trying to keep that gap stable.
Yes, the maintenance of that will be critical, and equally, perhaps John Dillon hasn't got as close to Willem van der Waal over the last couple of laps as I thought he might. But is he playing a sensible game here? And he's actually only going to do so when he's in a position where he feels comfortable of making an overtake happen, so that his visibility is not completely compromised by running too close to the car of Willem van der Waal for lap after lap after lap. Who knows? We're not in there driving the car. John is, and he's running in P5 at the moment. He is quicker than Willem van der Waal. And Ray Acosta and Zoe Skrimpias continuing their little battle going on here for P7. Zoe Skrimpias just taking a look. Ray Acosta, of course, whilst he's picked up that time penalty, he'll still want to finish ahead of Zoe Skrimpias on track anyway, and that will mean nothing to him. You're a racing driver. You'll always think that you're going to argue the case anyway. So in any event, he is certainly not going to indicate left and allow Zoe Skrimpias to come through, I would suggest.
That would be very unlike him, but obviously for Zois that means he doesn't have to go all out and overtake on the track. He knows that his competitor has that penalty, and he would be ahead of him if things finished as they were now. There is that battle, or developing battle, I would say, between Manuel Agostner, currently second, and Kirchmeier third. He has clawed back 10th after 10th, but he's not quite within striking distance. 11.5 minutes to do something about it, plus a lap.
Going back to the Acosta-Skrimpias battle, whilst it's a fair point you make, as far as Zoe Skrimpias is concerned, there's a car in front of him. That's always going to be a target. He's a racing driver, isn't he? You know, he's going to want to try and get by. Right. Faye speed cam, which is tucked in there on the fence so that you can see the wonderful 296 Challenge cars as Manuel Agostner and Ernst Kirchmeier. Right, he's getting closer. What have we got? 11 minutes of the race plus 1 lap remaining. Ferrari Challenge, Copa Shell, being led by NM and Manuel Agostner P2. Then it is Ernst Kirchmeier, and it is that particular battle for P2 that we pick up on right now, as Ernst Kirchmeier just quietly goes about his business of trying to pursue Manuel Agostner and find a way by the car number 193. NM is our race leader with a margin of 5.601 seconds. And here comes our P2 driver, Manuel Agostner. P3 driver is Ernst Kirchmeier. Now the distinctive colours of Willem van der Waal, the Scuderia Monte Carlo car you can see there, as John Dillon has got closer to Willem van der Waal right now. JD running in P5. As you see, when we go through that turn, the dark clouds overhead, and the spray has not dissipated very much at all. And this Brno circuit, if one thing I remember from my few visits here, is the fact that the weather conditions at one part of the circuit can be different to that in any other. And we are just keeping an eye just to see whether there's any raindrops coming down on any other part of the circuit, because I would have really thought that enough water would have been dissipated now that we would be seeing much less spray, but I'm not convinced we are.
No, it certainly hasn't dried off significantly, but it's not very warm, and there is not a lot of wind around between the trees here at Brno Circuit, so the moisture doesn't disappear all that quickly. Ernst Kirchmeier, meanwhile, quickest lap, fastest lap overall. He is closing the gap. Manuel Agostner trying to manage that. But it is the battle for P2 that is developing, and the other battle obviously is the one that we are watching, which is for positions 4 and 5, and depending what happens in front of them, this might all of a sudden develop into something relevant for the podium.
Of course, and it always can happen that is the case, so we will see how it develops over the remaining 9 minutes plus 1 lap. We're live from the Automotodrome Brno in the Czech Republic. We're about 20 minutes or so from the city centre, maybe 2.5 hours from Prague, depending on traffic, which is almost as difficult sometimes as Ernst Kirchmeier is finding it to encroach still further on the gap to Manuel Agostner. But he is doing it, and he sets the fastest lap. So I don't think this P2, P3 battle is done yet. So here comes Ernst Kirchmeier. As I mentioned in our pre-show, he is one of the most travelled Ferrari Challenge racers, and we've already seen the highlights, not only from the European season at Hockenheim, but also the highlights from the Ferrari Challenge Japan as well recently. And Ernst has raced in Japan, he's raced in Australasia this year, as well as having competed in Europe very, very successfully as well. He is one of these Ferrari Challenge drivers that absolutely loves his racing weekends. You never see him without a smile on his face. And whilst I'm not sure he's going to be smiling from ear to ear at the moment in his pursuit of Manuel Agostner, he will, of course, be enjoying the battle.
Yeah, for sure. In the meantime, Zoe Scrimpius and Fons Geltemar have both eclipsed Ray Acosta, who has dropped down to P9 on the track. And that means a double overtake has happened. Maybe we will get a replay. Our guys in the OB van certainly working hard to bring you a replay of what happened there. But in the meantime, we focus on those who are battling for pole positions, and rightfully so, as Manuel Agostner, who, it's fair to say, had a terrible start to the season by her lofty standards, nowhere near her performance level from previous seasons. She's picked up the pace, she's been consistent over the last few events, and P2 is a good indicator of where she is now.
Absolutely correct. So Manuel Agostner running in P2 at the moment. Here we can see Willem van der Vorm and John Dillon. They are at P4 and P5 positions ahead of Thomas Gostner, Zoe Scrimpias, Fons Geltemar, Ray Acosta, Corinna Gostner and Ruslan Sadriv. Ruslan, it's really good to see you back in the Ferrari Challenge again. Ruslan, another returning driver. Of course, home race for the Scuderia Prague team this weekend here, and the 166 car of Ruslan Sadriv, which took part in the opening race of the 2025 season in Monza. Good to see Ruslan back racing again. There is Ray Acosta then, and it's a P9 position for Ray Acosta, plus a time penalty to come at the end of the race, of which we have 6 minutes plus 1 lap remaining. John Dillon running P5, Willem van der Vorm P4, and then the top 3. But let's ride on board with Thomas Gostner, who is chasing down John Dillon. And there the telemetry, 6th gear, 250 kilometers per hour, jolly near before braking. Down into 5th gear, just temper the throttle a little bit, and then down to 4th gear. And now it is a real absolute full chat, flat on the throttle, climbing up through the gears. Pulling very nearly 9,000 revs before gear change, back on the brake again, turn in, just try and kiss the apex a little bit, almost pinch point perfect there, Thomas Gostner. And then to the right-hand side, you can hear the Pirellis protesting in these challenging conditions. Of course, they're on wet weather tyres, and wet weather tyres to perform well need wet weather. And the track surely in places is beginning to dry out as we stay on board with Thomas Gostner. Loving this on-board lap, a high-speed lap then aboard a Ferrari Challenge 296 car. More than kissing the apex on that occasion, taking the curbs as well. Now this bend here really draws you to the outside. You have to use everything you've got before moving up to this one, which is almost a chicane. You're running downhill at the same time, left, then focus on right. So our drone following Thomas Gostner all the way through, over the curbs. You can almost feel the rumble strips heading up towards the next right-hander. Just loved having virtually an entire lap then with the CDP MP Racing driver Thomas Gostner. There is the pit wall of MP Racing. led, of course, by Massimo Pepe. But leading the race, it's this driver, NM. Is it going to be 2 out of 2 for NM? Because his last race appearance in the Ferrari Challenge was at Hockenheim, where he was victorious in the second race. He takes another lap in the lead of the race with a margin of 4.180. For now, the Manuela Gosner-Ernst Kirchmayr fight has really gone away, because Manuela has either lit up the wick, or Ernst has had his own struggles, because the gap between Manuela Gosner and Ernst Kirchmayr has increased significantly. This is Zeus Grimpias being hounded now by the very sharpened teeth of von Skeltermar. So across the timing line they go, and the gap is reduced between Zeus Grimpias and von Skeltermar. It's the battle for P7 in this Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell race. Zeus Grimpias, our Copa Shell AM champion from 2024, and the long-serving 20-year career in the Ferrari Challenge of von Skeltermar, and all the experience and race knowledge that he has up against what is a relative newcomer in the Ferrari Challenge, Zeus Grimpias.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, Fons probably will feel wronged by the fact that he was spun around early in the race, so he's got the bit between his teeth and trying to move up the order, which gives him possibly some extra motivation. Not that he ever would need it, but it is sometimes how you feel you've been wronged. You really, really try extra hard to make up for that. As we said, Zeus is leading the championship, so he can't afford to give up any points. But he's maybe a little bit less consistent on the apex, whereas Fons is really nailing every single one of them.
That was great, and is great camera work. Good to see this battle. You could see Fons just dive out of the painted curbs there, because blooming slippery, truthfully, as he continues to pursue Zeus Grimpias. You're right, he needs to solidify his position and bank every single point that he can, and he doesn't want to give any of them up to the driver of the 177 car, von Skeltermar. We've got under 2 minutes plus 1 lap of this Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell race from the Brno circuit here in the Czech Republic. NM leading by 4.3 seconds to Manuela Gosner, then it's Ernst Kirchmayr, then it's Willem van der Voort, and then it's John Dillon, Thomas Gosner, and this battle for P7 between Zeus Grimpias and von Skeltermar. Back on the gas again for Fons as he exits this turn right now. Onto the start-finish straight with the back end of the Zeus Grimpias car filling his windscreen. He flashes his lights to try and get Zeus just to lose concentration for a millisecond. As we split the screen, you can see Germana Toniela, Zeus Grimpias' partner, who's also racing in Copa Shell AM, watching on from the Ineco Reporter Corsa Ram pit wall at Zeus Grimpias running in P7. Von Skeltermar running in P8. Shoulda, woulda, coulda will be the expression I think Fons will probably use towards the end of this race, which we are but 30 seconds away from the time running down to 0. But of course, we have an additional lap as well, and it all depends when NM passes and crosses the timing line. So von Skeltermar pursuing, and he's maintained this pursuit well. And again, great shot there as we pick up these as they run downhill. You can see completely different lines taken by Zeus Grimpias and von Skeltermar. There's no right or wrong way round, I suspect any driver would tell you. It's just what works for you best, and that is the one that you're always going to adopt. So the clock has counted down to 0, which means that when NM crosses the timing line, we will have just 1 lap left to run in this Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell race here at the Brno Automotodrome. So NM, Manuela Gosner, Ernst Kirchmayr, sure enough, confirmation that NM has just crossed the line and therefore has started the final lap of this Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell race. I remind you, 2 more races to come today from our Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers, and also from our Copa Shell AM drivers. Is the weather going to throw a further curve ball? I have to say, if nothing changes between now and the start of the Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli AM race, there might be questions to be asked with regards to what sort of tyres you're going to put on. I would say if the conditions stay as they are right now, you'd probably want to be on wets. Difficult for me to judge. Difficult for us to judge from television pictures, Nico.
Yeah, good thing we don't have to make that decision, but obviously for the teams that's going to be a crucial consideration. Also looking at the forecast, which slightly brighter skies, but only slightly, and not reliable by any stretch of the imagination. NM is in the final sector. He's in the first sector of the final lap, and that means we're only about a minute away. With the exception maybe of Skrimpias and Skeltema, all the other gaps are fairly sizable at this stage of the race.
Yes, I would agree with that. I think the order you can see on the left-hand screen, barring last-minute disaster, is potentially the order that we will see at the checkered flag. Here comes NM, who has been absolutely faultless in his execution of the drive. It all started behind the safety car, of course, with 2 laps behind the safety car starting off this race due to the weather conditions and the track conditions. And it's NM, Manuela Gosner and Ernst Kirkmaier, the top 3 at the moment. And the cars continuing on their way. And into shot comes our race leader. He came here, which is exactly 701 kilometers from Hockenheim, to get to the Automotoldrome Brno, and he made that 701 kilometer journey count well, because as he crosses the timing line, he sees the checkered flag, and NM is a race winner in Brno. Ahead of Manuela Gosner that takes P2 and Ernst Kirkmaier that takes P3. It will be Willem van der Worm who rounds the final turn and heads for that P4 place. John Dillon will bank valuable points for P5, and then it will be Thomas Gosner. The fight that Zeus Skrimpias was defending against with von Skeltema has kind of gone away. He's done enough. Here comes Zeus Skrimpias ahead of von Skeltema. It'll be Ray Acosta that will then cross the line. However, both Corinna Gosner and Ruslan Sadriv will be advanced positions due to Ray Acosta's time penalty for the contact on von Skeltema earlier on. So that's the way the race finishes then, in difficult conditions. And I have to say credit to all our Copa Shell drivers for coping with those conditions really rather remarkably.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it's these mixed conditions where it's not properly wet, but kind of trying to dry up, which are the most difficult, because you try to push the envelope and try to be as aggressive as you dare, and that always holds the peril of being a little bit too ambitious, but all the drivers really holding it together. Only that one incident with Ray Acosta and von Skeltema to speak of, and even that was really marginal in contact. Had significant impact on von Skeltema's race for sure, but it is what it is, and everybody sees the checkered flag with Ruslan Sadriv, the only driver still on his final lap, and he has now also seen the checkered flag. Ernst Kirchmeier, good drive, wasn't quite enough to get on terms with Manuela Gosner, who continues her improvement in terms of form, but there was, I think it's fair to say, no getting on terms with NM, spray or not.
No, I think there is an argument that a safety car start because of the weather conditions is always going to play into the hands of the pole sitter.
Simply by virtue of the fact that you're not in double file but single file alignment.
Exactly. Yep. But he had to seize that advantage, and then, built that margin of, well, it was fairly consistently maintained at 4 seconds. Actually, when they crossed the timing line, it was 5.2. So certainly seemed to have the pace and had the ability to hold on to everything as the cars will turn into the pit lane right now. The other thing I haven't mentioned, and we haven't had need to mention it, I guess, during the course of the race, is a very short pit exit here at Brno, and the cars will make their way into the Parc Fermé area. The podium's on the left-hand side. There, you can see it on screen. podium will be readied by the terribly efficient team here with Ferrari Corsa Clienti. And the drivers that you'll see on the podium will be NM, Manuel Agostner and Ernst Kirchmayr. I suspect Michele Mambelli will be hosting the podium ceremonies. David Gostner straight across to congratulate Manuela for taking her P2 place. And here comes NM, extricated from the car. And Andrea there from Rosso Corsa to go off over and offer congratulations. It was a Grande A win. Grande drive, and it's 2 out of 2 now for NM. Manuel Agostner P2, congratulated by her brother David, who of course will be racing in the Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli Am race. And Germana Toniella is there to congratulate as well. She of course very much part of the Onica Reporter Cars Ram team. And there is Ernst Kirchmayr, and big chap with the baseball cap on the wrong way round there, tall chap, you know. That's Giacomo Altoe, last year's Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli champion, who is coaching Ernst Kirchmayr. So here, confirmation of the classification. It's NM from Manuel Agostner, Ernst Kirchmayr, Willem van der Vorm. They are the top 4. Ahead of John Dillon, Thomas Gostner, Zeus Grimpias, von Skeltermar. They are the top 8. And then it was Ray Acosta, Corinna Gostner, and Ruslan Sadriv. So the drivers will be heading off to the podium momentarily. And the podium celebrations just at the start of the pit lane. The podium is located. That's where the podium is located. And that's where the podium celebrations will be. And the awards, of course. And I suspect it will be Giancarlo Fisichella making the trophy presentations, but I don't know. So the NM car and driver combo was faultless during the course of that wet race. Wet but drying race, I should say. Initially, I wasn't keen on the colour scheme, but now it really works for me. Manuela offering congratulations to NM. The camaraderie within the Ferrari Challenge is awesome, and I have to say one of the huge, attractive parts of the Ferrari Challenge. Here are the highlights then. The race was going to start behind the safety car, and that would mean single file start, probably 2 laps behind the safety car before the cars would be released to race proper. And sure enough, the clock immediately started ticking down the moment the safety car left the formed grid, because the race was on. Sure enough, visibility at the start of the race was always going to be compromised by the spray from the cars ahead. When the safety car was in, the cars were released to go about racing. NM and Manuel Agostner and Willem van der Vorm then. It was P1, 2 and 3 with Ernst Kirchmayr going around the outside of John Dillon, and then Manuel Agostner really throwing it towards Willem van der Vorm and having to be really brave around the final turn, but she made it stick. Unfortunately, Ray Acosta, with just a little touch on the back end of von Skeltermar, sent both of those cars out into the gravel. Ray Acosta's rally crossing exploits meant he got back out onto the track quickly, and von Skeltermar was not far behind. Willem van der Vorm found himself under real pressure from Ernst Kirchmayr, and inevitably at some point that pressure would yield results for Ernst Kirchmayr, who goes into that point to a provisional podium place. Ray Acosta and von Skeltermar continued their little battle, but it was going to be NM that would be victorious ahead of Manuel Agostner and Ernst Kirchmayr. They were the 1, 2, 3 in the Ferrari Challenge Copa-Shell Race 1 at the Outer Motordrome in Brno. Celebrations from the Rosso Corsa team to NM. So the podium is readied. We just await our drivers that will be jumping up onto the podium to receive their awards, of course. So Ernst Kirchmayr just to the right-hand side of the picture. And another great thing about the Ferrari Challenge is the fact that all the drivers will be, and all the support staff and crews all make their way to the podium to celebrate those that have taken the 1, 2, 3. You can see there Willem van der Worm to the right-hand side of your picture. John Dillon, Ray Acosta, Ruslan Sadriv all making their way up the pit lane. There is Ernst Kirchmeier. Hey, P3 for him. He takes on some well-needed water. And we'll be heading up to the podium ceremonies next. The voice that you will hear will be that of Michele Mambelli. There he is.
On the podium, the winners. Third on the podium, Ernst Kirchmeier.
Here comes Ernst then to take P3 for Kessel Racing. The Manuel Agostina will be going to the second step of the podium. The top step of the podium will go the way of the Rosso Corsa driver, NM. Congratulated by Manuela and Ernst Kirchmeier as well. And it'll be time for the national anthem.
Now, Giorgio, you had one job.
As that fades out then, stand by for the trophy presentations to come. 3 sets, well, actually 4 sets of trophy because there's always the Copa Teams trophies to be awarded as well. And Giancarlo Fisichella, then Ferrari ambassador driver, makes the trophy presentation to Ernst Kirchmeier for P3. For Manuel Agostina, P2. And as the trophies are handed to him, he's able to do a fastest lap in terms of trophy presentations. By Jiminy, these are being rolled out like they're on a production line. Well done, Giancarlo. Copa Team trophy awarded as well. Everyone together for the photographs.
In the first step of the podium,
onto the top step of the podium, if you would be so kind. Big smiles and hold your trophies up high. Well done.
Pictures and imagine from Brno circuit. First race, shall race. Okay.
That was all done. Who's going to win the champagne race? Are we going to see? Are we going to stick with that? I want to see this here. In my opinion, it's going to be Ernst who's going to be quickest with the champagne.
And now we are ready for
none of them seem to be in anything of a hurry.
When you want. Okay, champagne.
Okay,
champagne.
Ernst Kirchmeier, I had my money on, but I was wrong again. It was NM that did it.
Yeah, but it was a really, really close race once again. And yeah, Ernst, valiant effort. P3. P2 on the champagne, NM takes everything. Well, except for the fastest lap. That was Ernst Kirchmeier.
Okay, let's take a look at the cars then that delivered the results for these drivers. Ernst Kirchmeier then, driving for the Kessel Racing team, takes P3. Nico, Reparto, Corsa Ram. Well, they engineered the car of Manuel Agostina and engineered a car that was good enough to take P2 today. Very long established and well-respected team of Rosso Corsa. Well, they drew NM to his second race win in a row. He took the last race win in Hockenheim and takes the first here in Brno. Stand by for the classification to come in the Drivers' Championship. Zoe Scrimpia still leading. Manuel Agostina moves up 2 places to P2. Fabrizio Fontana missing this weekend. He's P3. Then it's NM, John Dillon, Cristiano Marchel, Thomas Agostina, and Christian Kinch. They are the top 8 in the Drivers' Championship. Head of von Skeltermar, Ernst Kirchmeier. Oscar Rinčević missing this weekend. Tibor Valent, Ray Acosta, Eric Chung, and Michael Martin. And then it's Willem van der Worm, James Weiland, Motohiko Isasaki, Karina Agostina, Ruslan Sadriv, and Germano Salernitano. That's the Drivers' Championship for our Copa Shell drivers in the Ferrari Challenge. So in difficult conditions then, the racing drivers of a Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell have coped remarkably well with what was a very wet track at the start of the race, and well, conducted themselves very well indeed. We still have more racing to come from the Brno circuit though, because we have our Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers with a 30-minute race plus 1 lap. And then we have our Copa Shell AM drivers with a 30-minute race plus 1 lap to come. Will the weather play a part in the races still to come? Only time will tell, but a curveball could be on its way. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye for now. Hello everyone, welcome to the Automotodrome Brno here in the Czech Republic. It's round 4 of Ferrari Challenge for 2025. What a season it's been so far, and with 2 races to come for our Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli Am drivers from this really exciting track, then the season continues in much the same vein that it started, I can tell you, in terms of excitement. And here's our formal welcome to Brno in the Czech Republic. We're around about 2.5 hours from Prague, about 20 minutes or so from the city centre of Brno. It is our midpoint in the season, if you will, ish. We've done 3. This is our 4th. And then we've got 4 more to come. Valencia, Barcelona, Spa, Francorchamps and Mugello. That will round out our calendar for 2025, and what a fantastic calendar it is being. I have to say, with these wonderful Ferrari Challenge 296 cars, our Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli Am drivers. Now, the weather conditions, we had quite some heavy showers over the lunch period. The last race, which was for our Copa Shell drivers, was wet. The track is very much drying out now. I would be amazed if anyone will go to this race on wet weather tyres. I'm not saying that there are not damp parts of the circuit. There jolly well will be, but I really don't think you would get a wet weather tyre that would last the duration of a 30-minute plus 1 lap race. They've got to be on slicks, in my opinion. This is the number 30 car of Felix Herziger. Now, Felix Herziger comes here having taken 4 wins in a row. 4 wins in a row, but he was beaten to pole position for this race by Gilles Renmans. Did a fantastic job, did Gilles, putting it on pole position for Francorchamps Motors Brussels. There's some supporters here to enjoy the race action to come from the Ferrari Challenge. We have 2 classes within the same category here because they're Trofeo Pirelli cars, but we have Trofeo Pirelli drivers like Gilles Renmans from pole position. Now, to the left-hand side of your picture, you can see where it says group. That's in red, and that's because he is a Trofeo Pirelli driver. If he's a Pirelli Am driver, you will see that that group would be in white. The strip across the top of the windscreen would be white. It's how you can identify whether someone is a Pirelli or a Pirelli Am driver, and here is an Am driver, and that is David Gosner, who did a very, very good job in qualifying within class. There you can see the white strip there. Well done, David Gosner. Pole position for CDP MP Racing. He goes from P1 as Corinna Gosner, his sister, affords her best wishes ahead of the start of this race. So the number 77 car, which we're in front of right now, for Gilles Renmans, going from P1, Felix Herziger, as I mentioned, comes here with a rich vein of success, having taken 4 wins out of his last 4 race starts in the Ferrari Challenge. Is going from P2 on the grid. P2 on the grid. So the number 90 car that you can see there is the car of Vincenzo Scarpetta. P3 for that Trofeo Pirelli driver. Now, David Gosner was so quick, he actually beat a Pirelli driver in qualifying, and he goes from P4 on the grid in terms of qualifying times, ahead of Yassin Ferrati. I was mentioning last time out at Hockenheim what a brilliant weekend we had in Germany for our Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli drivers, as Yassin Ferrati tried very hard to be on terms with Felix Herziger going into turn number 1, but there was nothing doing, and there certainly was plenty going on for Dylan Medler and Marco Zanassi, as they had strife, and so too did Armin Arifpour and Andrew as well. Andrew in big strife in the number 4 car. Of course, is Andrew Morrow. Felix Herziger then winning race 1. Done a good job in qualifying for race 2 as well, as he was afforded congratulations. And again, as the cars were released, Yassin Ferrati for the Emil Frey racing team tried to drag race Felix Herziger all the way to and through turn 1. They both took to the runoff area, but in the end, Felix Herziger was just able to get his nose ahead. Hendrik Viol and Marco Zanassi were having a brilliant battle, and Hendrik Viol had taken the win for our Pirelli Am drivers in race 1. However, for race 2, it was Marco Zanassi looking good, but there was lots going on everywhere around the track, and the hairpin proved to be something of a challenge for many of the drivers. Once again, it would be Felix Herziger that would take the win, and for the AM drivers, it would be a great job done by Marco Zanassi. He was the winner. So that was what it was like at Hockenheim just a few weeks ago. This is Brno, race 1, Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli AM. And for my money, Nico Spalek alongside me, that's a slick tyre.
Yeah, definitely. All the tyres that we've seen thus far are slick tyres. Weather forecast, rain radar all indicate this is going to be a dry race, certainly in terms of precipitation, and that means the track is only going to get drier. And I think you absolutely analyzed that correctly. Wet weather tyres would be a huge, huge gamble here.
Yeah, I think if there was a hint of there might be rain to come, then maybe. I know that, having spoken to a lot of people that know a lot about racing, including Andrea Gagliardini, who's in the studio next door to me, a former Ferrari Challenge star, and he says, you've got to keep wet weather tyres wet. That's how they work best. And he said, I don't think there's enough moisture around the track to be able to do that. So you would need a shower or something. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure most of the drivers, unless they've got some privileged knowledge that we haven't got, then they're going to be going with slicks. Hendrik Viol to the left-hand side of your screen. You could see there to the right-hand side. It's James Owen. Welcome back, James Owen. I'm from Wales, you know. He doesn't ever mind me saying that. He's proud of it. James, good to see you back racing in the Ferrari Challenge. This is Marco Zanassi. Now, Marco, his qualifying was not where he wanted it to be. He's going from P3 in class. He is a Trofeo Pirelli AM driver. He's going from P3. Marco Zanassi, there's only one number behind the P that he likes, and that's 1. And he wasn't able to get that. Michael Verhagen also wasn't able to get P1. He got P2 in terms of qualifying, but Michael Verhagen, another brilliant driver.
Yeah, absolutely. Didn't have a great weekend in Hockenheim, but overall great pace, and P2 ahead of Zanassi is good for him.
Let's have a look and meet some of our drivers, including one Mr. Herbert Guys. What a chap.
Ciao a tutti. Welcome to Brno, to the circuit Motodrome. My name is Herbert Geis. I'm 42 years. And I want to introduce you my team, Pro Racing, so come with me to the box. So we are here now with the car, number 11. So we brought another Italian flair to the track from Riva, so our partner. We are very proud that we have a turquoise car, which is a little bit unique on the track. Our team is, let's say, really efficient. The team is from Austria, so we have 1 team manager, we have 2 mechanics and 1 engineer. And now we feel very comfortable to everything, and we improve a lot. So that's why we could gain some podiums in the last races, and we hope that we can have it here in Brno as well. We come to the podium and have a good result and find some points. As you can see, we are here in another location from the box. So this is, let's say, really the heart, the control station. In the background, we have the onboard, we have all the data from the track, from all the other cars, the timing, sector timing, which is for us really interesting while driving, because we have also the, let's say, radio to me, to the driver and to the team manager, which we can change all the information what we need. And yeah, after every session or after the qualifying, we are coming here together to having a look on all the sector timings, what we need to improve. I hope you enjoyed the quick tour, and now enjoy the show of the Ferrari Challenge. And I say bye-bye.
Thank you, Herbert Guys, and thank you for taking the mickey out of Harold Prochik, who is his driver coach as well. That's great to see. I enjoy that, the fun and camaraderie there is inside the teams. This is Brno, and this is the circuit then. It's 5.4 kilometers, around about 20 kilometers from the center of Brno, and there are 6 left-handers, 9 right-handers, making up the 15 turns of this real roller coaster of a circuit with no really long straights here. It's a circuit that takes some mastering, but once you have mastered it, it's very, very rewarding indeed. So the Richard Mills safety car is leading the cars away then for their formation lap. To the best of our knowledge, every single driver starting on slick tyres then, and we'll go through the grid from back to front for you. Both are Pirelli drivers and Pirelli AM drivers as well. Remember, 2 classes in the one race. Pirelli drivers with the red strip across the top of the windscreen, the AM drivers with the white strip across the top of the windscreen. Max Mugelli and Armin Arifpour, they're P18 and P17. It's Martin Havas and David Akabadze, they go from P16 and 15. It's Andrew Morrow and Nobuhiro Imada. They're on the 7th row of the grid. Morrow is perhaps out of position. Herbert Geiss, who we've just heard from, and Henri Acide. They're on the 6th row of the grid. Then it's James Owen and Hendrik Viol. Hendrik Viol, another driver that didn't get it sewn up in qualifying. It's Hanno Laskowski and Marco Zanazzi, P8 and P7. Mikael Verhagen is P6. It's Yasin Ferrati going from P5. Best of the AM drivers, David Gosner going from P4. Then it is Vincenzo Scarpetta and Felix Herziger and Gilles Renman. They are P2 and P1, and they are Trofeo Pirelli drivers. And Gilles Renman then doing a brilliant job in qualifying earlier on today. Put it onto that P1 position. We'll be going from pole position, and it's only right and proper that we hear from the driver that starts from P1.
So first pole of the season, very happy. We managed to put all together in 1 lap, so very happy about the results. About the race this afternoon, we know starting from P1 is always a good thing, but it's a 30-minute race, it's a wide track, a lot of overtaking opportunities, so we will see how it ends, but we hope for the best. We will give it our all.
Thank you, Gilles. Well done. Delighted to say Ferrari ambassador driver Giancarlo Fisichella joining us on the air here. Giancarlo, Gilles says there are lots of overtaking opportunities here at the Brno circuit. There's no long straight, so you really have to pick your overtaking points, don't you?
Yeah, first of all, it's a fantastic circuit. There is a new tarmac here, and the car much quicker than a few years ago. Probably because of the tarmac, but also because the new 296, which is much quicker than the 488. The circuit, it's a very challenging circuit. You said the right word. It's a roller coaster here, up and down. A lot of nice, quick and slow speed corners. But you know, it's not easy to find the right place to overtaking, because especially one car behind another one, it's quite difficult for the downforce. You lose a lot of downforce. It's not easy to be close as much as the front car. So, but if you are quicker, you can find a place to overtake.
Thank you so much, Giancarlo. We'll be hearing from him plenty during the course of the race. It's about to get underway. 1 turn to do, then pole sitter is Gilles Renman. Felix Herziger, he'll want to make it 5 out of 5 race starts. And let's go racing. What a brilliant start from Felix Herziger then, who seemed to really get the jump. And a great start also from Marco Zanazzi and Hendrik Viol, the AM driver, trying to put himself up to the inside. Through turn 1 they go. It's really busy through there, but Felix Herziger and Marco Zanazzi, what a start from those 2 drivers. Absolutely phenomenal. And Marco Zanazzi has jumped a huge number of places and put himself in the lead of the Pirelli AM drivers. And for our Pirelli drivers then, it is Felix Herziger that is leading the way. There you can see Hendrik Viol in a battle with Hanno Laskowski. They are side by side. So this, the opening lap of the Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli AM races, every driver jostling position. Now, I think every driver will be on slick tyres. There's no way you could run wet weather tyres with the track drying and having dried as much as it can. I think the only problem will be if you go offline. Hendrik Viol there being caught out, perhaps going around the outside. But now tries to get back to the inside again. He's being hounded. So Felix Herziger, then it's Zanazzi from Verhagen and David Gosner. Gilles Renman P2 in class, then Vincenzo Scarpetta, Yasin Ferrati having dropped back down the order as we continue racing. And yeah, Felix Herziger, what a start for that driver. Hendrik Viol, Yasin Ferrati involved in a real battle here. Now, Hendrik Viol is ahead of Yasin Ferrati, and it's a non-class battle. Yasin Ferrati will want to be ahead of Hendrik Viol so that he can get on terms with Vincenzo Scarpetta, because Hendrik Viol is an AM driver. Best of the AM drivers, Marco Zanazzi. there is the number 77 car that started from pole position, who's lost 4 places right at the start of the race. The start is under investigation, and the cars put the first lap in the book. Let me give you the order. Felix Herziger, P1. Then it's Gilles Renman and Vincenzo Scarpetta for the Pirelli drivers. But for the AM drivers, Zanassi, Verhagen, David Gosner. Here is the start. Now, Giancarlo Fisichella is looking at this as if he was sat in race control right now. There was a little bit of a coming together, and as we see it from a different angle here, basically every driver, as I understand it, has to start and go through their grid boxes. Not absolutely sure every driver did. Race control have a really difficult job to do to really police this and make sure that the start is as satisfactory as it can be. Marco Zanassi, like a speeding train through the middle of the pack, and David Gosner there as we ride on board. I mean, Zanassi had put himself into P2 in the race before they'd even got to the first turn. So we see that from riding on board. What an extraordinary start to the race that was. Giancarlo, you've sat in race control as a driver advisor. How on earth do you pick the bones out of something as busy as that?
It's not easy. Obviously, they need to control many times on the replay to see if there was some jumping start. Probably Renman's didn't good start.
No.
From pole position. He's now 5th, so it's something strange. I have to say, fantastic start from Marco Zanassi. Yes. I don't know if it's under investigation.
Was it too ambitious? Maybe?
But if it's okay, I mean, it's the start of the life.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you. And the thing is that actually, when someone gets a really good start, if the pole sitter gets a poor start, it makes everybody else look really, really good. So, race control will take a look at that. The 2 fastest laps are coming from our 2 race leaders, Felix Herziger and Marco Zanassi, leading in Pirelli and also Pirelli AM. So there is Felix Herziger. He is leading Marco Zanassi. We've got 3 AM drivers running P2, 3 and 4 in the race, and that's Zanassi, Verhagen and David Gosner. And there is Marco Zanassi. Gilles Renman then, not the best start in the world. Vincenzo Scarpetta and then Yasin Ferrati. They're running P5, 6 and 7 in the race, but of course P2, 3 and 4 in class. Hendrik Viol doesn't even have a podium at the moment, and he has got 3 Pirelli cars ahead of him that he would need to get by before he could take the chase to David Gosner. So it's going to be a really difficult 25 minutes plus 1 lap for Hendrik Viol. Here our race leader then, Felix Herziger, who has been absolutely astounding in the Ferrari Challenge. He had a torrid opening to the season at Monza, where he had a really forgettable weekend. But from Monza on, he has just been brilliant, absolutely unbeatable. Felix Herziger did get beaten in qualifying, got beaten fair and proper by Gilles Renman. When it came to the start of this race here, he did everything that he needed to do, and he goes from, and he runs the race lead currently, and has broken away significantly from Marco Zanassi. Zanassi, of course, is being chased by Michael Verhagen. Now, that was Henri Acide, who came into the pit lane. And that was almost like he'd served a drive-through penalty, but I've seen nothing to suggest that, because I think he just came in and went straight out again. And generally speaking, Giancarlo, that's for a drive-through, isn't it? But I've seen no warnings.
Yeah, so far it looks all right. We'll say, considering the lap time, 58.1 is 2 seconds off compared to the qualifying session, and yeah, the circuit is completely dry, because considering the fuel load, already the scrap tires, it's I would say it's completely dry. We can see not the wet track at all, also in the outside line, so it's a completely dry race. Yes.
When you have this multi-class racing as we do in Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli, where you've got the 2 categories, you've got Pirelli and you've got Pirelli AM, it's really disadvantageous, isn't it, if you've got 3 of the wrong class ahead of you, because you've still got to overtake those cars, come what may, Giancarlo.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You have no possibility to, you know, easily to overtake those cars in front of you. But, you know, it's 23 minutes to go, and everything could happen.
and probably will, knowing the Ferrari challenge. So absolutely brilliant to have the Ferrari ambassador driver Giancarlo Fisichella with us here in our studio as we watch Marco Zanassi and, interestingly, Yasin Ferrati, who's running P7 in the race overall, P4 in Trofeo Pirelli, has just set the fastest lap. That's just been bettered by David Gosner for the AM drivers, or David Gosner, actually, his AM driver is the fastest lap. So Yasin Ferrati and David Gosner are the two drivers with the fastest laps. Marco Zanassi is really having to do some defending here from Michael Verhagen, having to try and make that 296 challenge car a little bit wider than it is, as Verhagen is trying to provoke and almost encourage a mistake from Marco Zanassi ahead of him. There's the order for our AM drivers. It is Zanassi from Verhagen and Gosner. They are the top three. For our Pirelli drivers, it's Felix Herziger, it's Gilles Renman, and then it is Vincenzo Scarpetta. Oh, and off. Is that the number 77 car of Gilles Renman's? Yes, it is. Giancarlo, did you see that?
Unfortunately, it was too late, what I saw, and probably Reymans was doing an overtaking maneuver, but I think he didn't get well.
It didn't. We'll get a replay of that, I feel sure. So,
yeah.
Gilles Renman then losing out to Yasin Ferrati, who's now in a potential podium position. So that means that one of the Pirelli drivers, Hendrik Viol from P4 in Pirelli AM, that he was going to have to get by, has gone by the wayside now. So Felix Herziger leading from Vincenzo Scarpetta now and Yasin Ferrati. And Ferrati, who has just set fastest lap for our Pirelli drivers. Here it is in replay. And there you can see there was a little tag, wasn't there, from the number 90 car of Vincenzo Scarpetta. And that was enough to send the car sideways, and very good avoidance by any other driver that was following. I have to say, a very good recovery from Gilles as well. There is Thomas Gosner on the pit wall, who, of course, is watching his son, David Gosner, running in P3 at the moment. And now, under pressure, is Michael Verhagen from David Gosner, the very driver we were talking about just a moment ago. He drives the 296 Challenge, which is red and gold. That one, center picture right now, driver of the number 50 car. He's a Pirelli AM driver running in P3 currently, and he is chasing down this driver that we ride on board with now, which is Michael Verhagen for Ferrari Warsaw. He, in turn, is chasing Marco Zanassi, and he's been much, much closer to Marco Zanassi. The thing is, when you're in this position where you're hunting and being hunted at the same time, you've got to try and attack and defend at the same time. That's jolly difficult to do. The incident involving cars number 90 and 77 in turn 13 that we've just seen in replay is going to be under investigation. You'll see that notification on screen shortly. We can bring that to you because it's fed through to our message board here in our studio. So you'll see that on screen very soon. Marco Zanassi then with David Gosner and Michael Verhagen all pushing very, very hard. Here, David Gosner takes a look at the number 33 car. This is Marco Zanassi then, and Gosner and Verhagen go side by side, and Gosner has gone through. I didn't expect to see an overtake there, but he has done it. Car number 90 is going to get a time penalty. And that car number 90, as we can see, out has gone the number 33 car of Michael Verhagen. So let's see what happened here, because David Gosner put it to the outside, didn't he? We're riding on board with Michael Verhagen. Here's David Gosner diving to the inside. I'm listening to hear if there was any... I mean, Giancarlo, that kind of doesn't really help us, does it? Because I wondered whether there was contact between Gosner and Verhagen. But that replay didn't really say... I was listening to hear if I could hear a clunk into the side of the car.
Yeah, I didn't understand what happened. Maybe it looks like he had a maybe mechanical problem. I didn't see any touch. I don't know.
No. Well, he's certainly out now, which is a great shame. And where that car is situated, I don't know if he can get it going from there again. Whether he will be back out on track, we will see. But certainly, Michael Verhagen is saying no. Car number 90, time penalty of 5 seconds for track limits. Now, That's for Vincenzo Scarpetta, who's P2 in Trofeo Pirelli. So that's going to elevate Yacine Ferrati and also elevate potentially Gilles, dependent on when they get to the end of the race, what the gaps are. But you can see there that 5-second penalty for Vincenzo Scarpetta. That is for track limits. He's done 4 track limit violations. And at that point, you pick up a 5-second time penalty. So right now, David Gostner is really taking it to Marco Zanassi, as David Gostner has got past the car of Michael Verhagen. Michael Verhagen showing as stopped, so no other warnings on our screen, so we can only assume that the David Gostner was able to go by because of some issue that Michael Verhagen had with his car, which slowed it. And there is Henri Acide. Now he's stopped on the track with a problem. So the Henri Acide car, I'm sure that was the Henri Acide car. Yes, it is. Now he's managed to get it going again, thank goodness for that, because that means that avoids a safety car situation with the car stopped out there on the tarmac. And car number 90 receives a time penalty of 10 seconds for causing a collision. So that's Vincenzo Scarpetta that is picking up that time penalty. There it is on screen for you. So that knocks Vincenzo Scarpetta right down the order in terms of Trofeo Pirelli drivers. So in replay, and that is interesting. Thank you for that replay. This is Marco Zanassi then, heading David Gostner. And the two Pirelli AM drivers are ahead of Vincenzo Scarpetta, and then it's Yacine Ferrati. Now, Yacine Ferrati, of course, he needs to get by those cars that are ahead of him to have any hope of getting on terms with Felix Herziger, but I don't think he's going to be able to do that. Felix Herziger is very nearly 8 seconds up the road. We're about at half distance. Well, no, just under half distance. 15 3/4 minutes plus 1 lap still to go in this Ferrari Challenge race. And great to see spectators here in the grandstands enjoying the Ferrari Challenge as we continue our European tour here in the Czech Republic. Delighted to be here. And we pick up once again on Marco Zanassi and David Gostner. David Gostner just showing his face to the inside of Marco Zanassi, but Zanassi is wise to it and is defending really, really well here. Giancarlo Fisichella, you've won more races than I care to mention. Is it harder to attack or defend?
I would say both. In this case, it's quite difficult for Marco Zanassi to keep the position because behind him there are drivers, I think, quicker than him. And especially it's a nice battle for the second and third place, but also it's first and second place for the HAM category. So it's very interesting race to follow.
Great diplomatic answer from Giancarlo. It's as difficult to attack as it is defend, and he's right. I am sure he's done it many, many times. There's Yacine Ferrati. Well, he's definitely in attack mode. But of course, the driver he's attacking ahead of him, he's already ahead of him, actually, because of the time penalty. But the blooming car is still on the track, so he's got to find a way by it. Marco Zanassi looking a bit wayward now. He ran a bit wide there. Did that play into the hands of David Gostner? Perhaps not quite, but David Gostner will be feeling good about this and about the opportunity to get by Marco Zanassi here. Well, Scarpetta all over the back of David Gostner. Now, David doesn't want to let him by, even though it would be completely academic because it's an out-of-category battle. He needs to stick like glue to the back end of the Marco Zanassi car. With 13.5 minutes plus 1 lap left to run, Marco Zanassi then can ill afford to make any errors at all. David Gostner now puts himself to the inside of Marco Zanassi. Zanassi is able to carry a bit more momentum. That denies David Gostner, who will definitely have another go, I think, as Yacine Ferrati and Vincenzo Scarpetta are all over the tarmac trying to fight where they can go. It's almost a double apex turn there, but Yacine Ferrati welded to the back of Vincenzo Scarpetta. I love this sequence of turns here at Brno. You go under that banner there. It's fantastic because the undulating nature of this circuit as Gosner once again turns up the wick on Marco Zanassi, trying to find a way by. And Marco Zanassi, for my money, driving a really good race here and soaking up the pressure as Yacine Ferrati pulls out. Hendrik Viol is getting closer as well. And for Hendrik Viol, he would love these two to really have a fantastic battle. Hendrik Viol is in that P3 position now for the AM drivers, so maintaining a good point score, which is critical for his championship chase. 12.5 minutes remaining. Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli AM. We're live from Brno. Felix Herziger, well, he's 10.5 minutes up the road in the lead of the race before we get to this queue of cars, which is Marco Zanassi and David Gosner. They're in a real battle for P1 in Pirelli AM. Then you've got Vincenzo Scarpetta, who's got a 30-second time penalty. You've got Yacine Ferrati right up his trumpet, but can't seem to get by him. And Zanassi runs a bit wide. David Gosner goes to the inside. David Gosner is not going to need 2 invitations. Giancarlo, he kept the pressure on and it paid off.
Yeah, great maneuver by Gosner. He was making under pressure Marco Zanassi, and he was a little bit wide for turn 1, and Gosner, he went inside and he did a nice pass.
That was a really good overtake from David Gosner, who now is able, you can see, and a point that Giancarlo made just a few moments ago is, I think Gosner is quicker, and he is quicker. You can see he's now broken away from Marco Zanassi, so well done to David Gosner. He's now leading for Pirelli AM drivers. And being frustrated behind Marco Zanassi right now is Vincenzo Scarpetta. And of course, Yacine Ferrati is Scarpetta. Took a look at the inside there, as we can see from our drone shot there. We're into the final 11 minutes plus 1 lap of this Ferrari Challenge race. Yacine Ferrati now just taking a look at the inside, almost trying to sell a dummy to Vincenzo Scarpetta as Yacine Ferrati tries to go around the outside. Then he'll switch back to the inside, but Scarpetta has got it covered off for the moment. So wherever we look at the moment, there is plenty going on. Replay of this brilliant overtake. It was advantaged by virtue of the fact that Marco Zanassi ran wide. What was also really, really nice to see was the respect between the two drivers. Racing room was left, and when you're driving at the speeds you're driving, Giancarlo, you want that respect between drivers, don't you?
Yeah, it is exactly what we saw in this overtaking maneuver. It was nice to see Marco Zanassi stay outside and don't close the door and avoid the accident.
Brilliant stuff, and that's why we love the Ferrari Challenge. Absolutely excellent driving from Marco Zanassi and also, of course, from David Gosner. In the meantime, plenty of other things going on here. Please don't think we've forgotten about you, Andrew Morrow, chasing down Nobuhiro Imada. Nobuhiro Imada running P8 in the race, Andrew Morrow running P9, although it is the battle for P5 and 6 in the AM category. The number 77 car that you can see there of Gilles Renmans. Now, he is running P4 in Pirelli. That could become P3, though, because of the penalty that Scarpetta is going to pick up. And there you can see Andrew Morrow continuing to chase to Nobuhiro Imada. Nobuhiro is a really well-travelled Ferrari Challenge racer, because the Ferrari Challenge reaches out not only here in Europe but also in the UK and Australasia and Japan and North America. Nobuhiro Imada is certainly a regular competitor in the Ferrari Challenge Japan. Felix Herziger, David Gosner, P1 in each of the classes. They are Pirelli, the Pirelli drivers with the red strip across the top of the windscreen, the AM drivers with the white strip across the top of the windscreen. 8.5 minutes and a lap. Herbert Guys being chased down by the Welsh driver James Owen. Then it is David Akabadze. Then Max Mugelli, Armin Arifpour, Martin Havas, and Mikael Verhagen. And Henri Acid has come into the pit lane again and gone back out. So clearly he's got some issues with his 296 challenge car, which he is trying to drive through and overcome. David Gosner has opened up a huge gap over Marco Zanassi since he's been released, which just proves the point in terms of Marco Zanassi being a little bit of a cork in the bottle, really, to David Gosner. Nobuhiro Imada and Andrew Morrow, who's got Gilles Renman behind him. We've got an incident at turn 4, which has given us a yellow flag, a localized yellow at the moment, which has been lifted. So one can only assume that it was somebody that ran wide there. Nobuhiro Imada then holding on to this, and another hugely enthusiastic and passionate Ferrari challenge driver, if ever there was one. This is a great onboard shot as we chase down Herbert Guys. We're on board with James Owen, the Meridian Modena Engstler driver. James Owen, who of course victorious in the World Finals last year and victorious in the FIA World Motorsport Games as well. Loves his racing, and is also very supportive of his son, who's in kart racing now. And that's why we don't see James Owen in the challenge car quite as often as perhaps we would like, but he is back this weekend, and very welcome he is, though he's not found a way past Herbert Guys yet. Remember, at the start of the program we had the privilege of meeting Herbert Guys and also his team as we went behind the scenes with the Ferrari challenge. 6.5 minutes remaining. This 296 challenge car, Giancarlo Fisichella, which I know you extol the virtues of. Every time Ferrari Challenge evolves a brand new car, and I'm lucky that I've been involved since the days of the F430. And just when you think the cars can't get any better, they always do. And this 296 is a remarkable racing car, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an incredible car. Big step forward in terms of grip level, engine power, and more comfortable in the braking point. Considering you know, there is the new tarmac here, and it's about 2-3 seconds quicker.
Yeah.
But the pole position of the 488 challenge 2 years ago was 2 minutes and 3 seconds, and yesterday, this morning, was 1:56. I think it's 3 or 4 seconds by the car, maybe more.
That's a big margin.
A huge step forward.
And some drivers tell me, and I'd be interested to hear from you, yeah, this is the closest challenge car ever to a GT3 car.
Absolutely, absolutely. In Monza, maybe this car it's maybe quicker than GT3 car, because the power of this car is much more compared the GT3 cars, considering obviously the BOP done by the federation. It's quite, the engine power is quite poor in the GT3, so they are able to be quicker than GT3 cars in Monza, because it's just long straight and they have more speed everywhere.
Giancarlo, as always, it's great for you it's great for us to have you here. I know you've got to go off and do trophy presentation duty, so I thank you very much. Giancarlo Fisichella, I hope, will be joining us again tomorrow, Ferrari ambassador driver. Great to have his insight, really appreciate. Thank you, Giancarlo. Hanno Laskowski goes rally crossing. First it was gravel, then it was grass, then it was tarmac. Whoa, big save, Hanno. Well done for saving that, friend. And he did save it. Wow. This is Felix Herziger, who is so far up the road. Well, you can just see the P2 driver in the race overall, who's the P1 driver in Pirelli Am, just coming into the shot. The gap between P1 and P2 is 10.5 seconds. That's almost unheard of. And it all happened right at the start of the race, to be honest. So Felix Herziger leads Vincenzo Scarpetta, but he's got a 30-second time penalty, so it's going to be Yasin Ferrati and Gilles Renmans that take the benefit of that. For our AM drivers, it's David Gosner, Marco Zanassi, and Hendrik Viol. Hendrik Viol, to his disadvantage, Oh, going through on Marco Zanassi now, almost, is the number 30 car of number 90 car of Vincenzo Scarpetta. I was going to say almost to the disadvantage of, or it was definitely to the disadvantage of Hendrik Viol. For him to have any opportunity to get on terms with Marco Zanassi, he's got to get by 2 Trofeo Pirelli cars ahead of him, which is always, always difficult. Henri Acide has been in and out of the pit lane. Obviously some issues for Henri Acide, which is a great shame. He's such a good driver and such a pleasant guy to talk to as well. And here you can see Marco Zanassi, and there you can just see Henri Acide. Thanks for splitting the picture, guys. Henri Acide making his way back out onto the pit lane as well. They're just taking data away here. As Yacine Ferrati's all over the back of Vincenzo Scarpetta trying to find a way by, and he hasn't been able to do it. Marco Zanassi is right in the mix of those two as well. It's a non-class battle because Marco Zanassi is an AM driver. The 2 drivers right behind him are Pirelli drivers. And here is David Gosner leading for our Pirelli AM drivers. And David Gosner was on the podium in Hockenheim. He took a P3 in race 2. The way things stand at the moment. So Vincenzo Scarpetta does go through on Marco Zanassi, and Yacine Ferrati then also going to try and do the same here. Drag race to turn number 1 then, and that will allow, as Yacine Ferrati closes the door almost on Marco Zanassi. What have we got? Just under 2 minutes remaining, plus a lap. Can Hendrik Viol get on terms with Marco Zanassi for P2 potentially in the Pirelli AMS race, and of course the additional points that brings. And there's a real championship chase going on with these drivers. Nico joins us now. Welcome back.
Yeah, had to step back for Giancarlo, of course, but yes, Hendrik Viol and everybody here in the grandstands will be cheering him on now that the opportunity is somewhat presented to him. We've got 1.5 minutes remaining, plus 1 lap, and I think Felix Hirziger will finish his current lap before that time elapses, so it will be 2 more laps after this one, by our reckoning, and Hendrik Viol would very much like that.
Absolutely, and he's getting closer to Marco Zanassi. Hendrik Viol, Scuderia Prague, of course, the applause, the support, the will is going to be enormous from the garage, which sits right behind our commentary studio. You might even be able to hear them in a moment. Right, Hendrik Viol, he turns up the wick. Now he and Marco Zanassi, off track, great camaraderie. On track, they're battling each other.
Yeah, for sure, especially when it's your home race. I mean, you're always motivated to the brim, but when it's your home race, you definitely, it's not only for yourself, it's for the entire team and for the people in the grandstand. It counts double. And there is a warning flag, dangerous driving for car number 1, and that was Yacine Ferrati. And I think it was that wiggle that we saw on Marco Zanassi. I think Marco Zanassi might agree with that.
Yes.
It's a warning flag, there's no immediate consequence. The time is about to hit quadruple zeros. Obviously, Felix Hirziger has started his lap, so it's the remainder of this one plus 1 more to do.
And where can Hendrik Viol then try and provoke a yet mistake from Marco Zanassi so that he could go through and pick up that P2 place for our Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers? Well, Marco Zanassi has spent an entire race doing a lot of defending, to be fair to him, and defending very fairly. So Marco then, with his arch rival in terms of Drivers' Championship points, right up his trumpet. Here is the live championship. And that's how it would be right now. If the race finished now, there'd be 3 points between them, with Hendrik Viol P1 and Marco Zanassi P2. Now, Hendrik Viol is made of clever stuff, and he knows that if he can get by Marco Zanassi, that's going to give him an even bigger margin when it comes into the race tomorrow for the Drivers' Championship. So, he's going to be determined, but he's also very sensible. He's not going to bin it to win it, because there would be no point.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, you've got this lap plus 1 more, and I think until he reaches the final laps, or the final turns of the final lap, he will find or look to find that opportunity. Will he go for a daredevil move? Maybe not, probably not, knowing him as a driver. But he's going to try and put the pressure on and try and provoke a mistake.
Yes, I think you're right. He's not going to go for a daredevil move. That would be foolhardy, and that is absolutely not the way that Hendrik Viol operates. So here we go then. Felix Herziger starts his final lap. Yassin Ferrati still behind Vincenzo Scarpetta. Hendrik Viol still behind Marco Zanassi. And this is the last opportunity for Hendrik Viol really to get past him. I know we've got a camera that is sitting poised inside the Scuderia Prague garage to see the emotions, but I think Hendrik Viol, he knows jolly well that he's not going to throw it all away for the benefit of a few points when it's still a long haul to the end of the season. And he and Marco Zanassi have been driving fantastically, and there's been some brilliant racing between the two of them. But I have to say, this young man, tall as he might be, Felix Herziger, is such an impressive driver. And in terms of the Drivers' Championship, this, if it finishes now, 88 points for Felix Herziger. The drone shot of Felix Herziger then making his way around this undulating and turbulent racing circuit that is the Automotodrome Brno. Herziger leading Vincenzo Scarpetta and Yassin Ferrati on track. Yassin Ferrati, of course, will inherit P2 come what may, and Gilles Renmans will inherit P3 come what may. But there's going to be no mistaking the race winners in either of the classes, because they have been, dare I say it, in a class of their own right from the very start of the race. It has been awesome in Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo Pirelli, and also in Pirelli Am. Felix Herziger then climbs the hill now with just a couple of turns to do before seeing the checkered flag unfurled. And bear in mind, when the checkered flag is unfurled on this occasion for Felix Herziger, it will be his 5th race win in a row. Felix Herziger takes victory in Brno for Trofeo Pirelli. David Gosner will take victory for Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli Am. What a great win for David Gosner. Vincenzo Scarpetta then will cross the line at P3 overall, P2 in class, but he will be dropped down the order behind Yassin Ferrati and also Gilles Renmans, as Marco Zanassi does bank P2. Hendrik Viol takes P3. And the rest of the cars coming through then, Nobuhiro Imada, Andrew Morrow, and Gilles Renmans, and Hanno Laskowski. Vincenzo Scarpetta holds on to P3, to be fair. The gap was sufficient for him to hold P3.
Yeah, and it was close in multiple instances, because he's ended up at 7 track limit warnings. One more would have brought another penalty.
7.
So he, well, was clearly a very entertaining drive for him. Yields a podium, but it was on a knife edge in multiple ways. Felix Herziger, well, he made it count at the start. And,
he did.
Reached the fans. Great performance. And Hendrik Viol didn't have qualifying all his own way.
No.
But he is awarded with a podium, and I dare say the crowd will cheer P3 in the end. Oh, David Gosner made no mistake through the race.
He was doing a donut deliberately to celebrate, I think.
Hopefully. He is a winner, and he keeps it out of the gravel bed, at least permanently. There is the Gosner family. I hope they didn't see that. He will have to report on that after the race and after the podium. Yeah, super happy for Manuela. She got her own podium in her race.
Yes.
And David Gosner even betters that in terms of finishing position by claiming top spot.
Well, it was a remarkable race in so many ways. Really, it was. But a very enjoyable race, that's for sure. So cars making their way back to the Parc Fermé area then. Including Yassin Ferrati, who takes P2 for Pirelli drivers. cars into the Parc Fermé area then. And there's going to be some good celebrations, I feel sure. Good vibrations as well, I suspect, from the celebrations that we'll see and hear. So there is the number 30 car of Felix Herziger. He's a big chap, you know, getting in and out of the 296 challenge. Fit as a fiddle, which helps. Oh, steady on, Felix. Oh, I say. He really meant that one. And there the congratulations from the team. Vincenzo Scarpetta for Radici Automobili takes P3. He also wins the award for most track limits. David Gosner. I always knew that was going to be a big celebration with, of course, the entire family here already because they're racing. Done a great job. Steady on, Manuela. Grande, grande. Massimo Pepe, then the team boss from MP Racing. Here, confirmation of the classification then. Felix Herziger from Yassin Ferrati, Vincenzo Scarpetta. Then it was Gilles Renman, Max Mugelli and Henri Acide for our Trofeo Pirelli drivers. Of course, we'll bring you the same for the AM drivers, and there it is. David Gosner, Marco Zanassi, Hendrik Viol, the 1, 2, 3, Nobuhiro Imada, Andrew Morrow, Hanno Laskowski, Herbert Geiss, and James Owen. And then it was David Akabadze, Armin Arifpour, Martin Havas, and Michael Verhagen. So we'll be taking a look at super slow-mo of our race winners and also talking to Felix Herziger, I feel sure. Ludovica will be standing by to get hold of Felix Herziger. There's quite a size difference between the two of them. Felix Herziger, 8 foot tall. Ludovica, not. And let's hear from our race winner now, Felix Herziger.
Felix, congratulations. Another important victory for you here in Brno, from P2 to P1 after a very good, perfect race, and then you manage in solitary way your race.
Yeah, it was perfect. I couldn't have imagined a better start, a better race. Car was incredible. I could just do my laps corner by corner. It was incredible. So thank you to my team, Reparto, to my sponsor Neupack, to everybody watching at home, my mom, my brother, my girlfriend Diana, my best friend Dave here, Hendrik too, everybody in the team. I'm just so grateful. 5 wins in a row. It's incredible.
Thank you so much. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
It is incredible, Felix, and you deserve congratulations. Well done. We'll be hopefully hearing from David Gosner potentially as well. He, of course, is our Trofeo Pirelli AM victor. He was on the podium. He was on the podium in Hockenheim, taking P3, but now it's to the top step of the podium for our Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers, and richly deserved as well. Showed his prowess in qualifying, and then even more so in the race. Here is David Gosner.
David, congratulations. A very incredible race for you today. First of all, I want to ask you, how do you feel? And then how did you build with your team this important result?
Yes, today I feel really happy. It was a really nice race and it was a nice start. And I had a really good feeling with my car. And my mechanic did a really nice job today and made a really nice setup. And the car was excellent, and it's a beautiful track, and I like the track, and really happy today, of course.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Well done, David. Richly deserved. Great race. Here come the highlights of Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli Am then. Felix Herziger, for once, was not on pole position. That was going to make it very interesting right at the start of the race. Gilles Renman was going from pole position. So the cars rounded the final turn and headed towards the lighting gantry. Marco Zanazzi with a blistering start, and Hendrik Viol with a good start too, and also Felix Herziger. David Gosner always trying to do well also. Gilles Renman had a torrid time at the start of the race. So Felix Herziger with his nose in front. And Hanno Laskowski and Hendrik Viol going side by side. Henri Acide seemed to have perpetual problems throughout the race with his number 67 car, regrettably. Marco Zanassi, well, he'd got a queue of cars behind him, and there was lots going on wherever they were. And, well, unfortunately, that was a huge, huge save in the end. And whilst the traffic cones were strewn across the track, thankfully, that's all that was strewn across the track. It went from bad to worse for Gilles Renman. So the number 33 car of Michael Verhagen finding gravel, and then the safety of the runoff area. So Marco Zanassi and David Gosner, this was for the lead in the AM race, and David Gosner just piled the pressure on Marco Zanassi, and in the end it paid off. He made a mistake, and David Gosner went through to pick up the lead, and to the delight of his team and family. Hanno Laskowski felt a bit of rallycrossing coming on, and I have to say credit to him for saving that car through that, as Felix Herziger won for our Pirelli drivers and David Gosner won for our Pirelli Am drivers. It was a very entertaining Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli race. We'll take a look at the statistics then of our Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli race then. 17 laps in total, and there you can see the best progress was made by Max Mugelli and also Andrew Morrow. That, of course, is overall progress. And fastest laps coming from our two race winners, of course, Felix Herziger and David Gosner. Let's go to the podium right now.
First podium, amazing race. Third on the podium for Pirelli class.
Beautiful trophies.
Vincenzo Scarpetta.
Here's Vincenzo Scarpetta, then takes P3.
Second driver on the podium, Yasin Ferrati.
Penalties. Yasin Ferrati then takes P2.
The winner is Felix Herziger.
And here comes Felix Herziger then, P1.
On podium, Ineco Reparte Corseram, team manager.
And of course, the team will be represented as well for the Copa Team Award.
And now, national anthem. Our claps for the winners and the trophy are presented by our official ambassador driver, Giancarlo Fisichella.
Yeah, Giancarlo Fisichella, who was with us on the air just a few moments ago. I had to release him to enable him to get ready for the trophy presentations, and he makes the first presentation to Yasin Ferrati, to Vincenzo Scarpetta, then Yasin Ferrati, and then, of course, to Felix Herziger.
The trophy for the team. Team Ineco Reparto Corseram.
And the team are in receipt of their
Lucio Vergani, Pirelli Motorsport Manager, presents the trophy for the winner,
Luciano
Felix Herziger.
Vergani then with the Pirelli trophy presentation to Felix Herziger.
Okay, Lucio, Giancarlo is the team manager. Please, drivers, please close on the first step of the podium.
So onto the top step of the
up your trophy.
podium.
Up
your
trophy. Smile. Amazing.
He means lift your trophy.
Photos and pictures from
Brno, up yours,
the fourth round
which is
of Ferrari
something
Challenge
completely
Europe
different.
Series.
Up yours trophy
and
is
wait a second,
lift your trophy.
Team manager Giancarlo, wait. Okay, out of the podium, wait driver. Wait a second, and 3, 2, 1, champagne!
Well, Felix Herziger was definitely going to always be the winner of that. Yasin, I never had you down as a... He ran away.
Absolutely. I don't know. Well, maybe he's getting ready for the race tomorrow. Already focused on race number 2 and qualifying tomorrow. Because remember, we do it all over again tomorrow.
I can hardly wait. Another 30 minutes plus 1 lap of this brilliant racing to come after qualifying. You're quite right. But we've got another podium to come because the podium will be ready. Claudio, top man that he is, he's there with the mop already, clearing up the podium so that we can be ready for our AM drivers.
Yeah, and it's a unique podium because it's effectively ground level. So we just saw David Gostner in the crowd, and now he will be on the podium.
Yeah. Not only on the podium, top step. Here comes Hendrik Viol then. He banked to that P3 in the important points.
A very, very big battle. Second on the podium, Marco Zanassi.
Here's Marco Zanassi then. He takes P2.
And the winner is,
great camaraderie between them.
David Gostner.
And the winner, David Gostner. What a drive,
on
David.
The podium, team manager, CDP MP Racing.
And Massimo Pepe, I suspect,
Pepe
will be on the podium for CDP MP Racing. Indeed he is. National Anthem. Proud father moment there as Thomas Gostner looks on. His son is on the top step of the podium.
The trophy.
Once again, Ferrari ambassador driver Giancarlo Fisichella will be making the trophy presentations. First of all, to our P3 driver, Hendrik Viol. Well done, Hendrik. We'll be popping into your team in just a few moments for a cup of tea, I hope. Marco Zanassi, P2.
And the winner, David Gostner.
David Gostner, he is race winner. And of course, will be in receipt of a Pirelli Motorsport trophy as well.
For CDP MP Racing.
After the MP Racing team received their
Pirelli trophy.
Copa Team trophy.
Pirelli Motorsport manager Lucio Vergani.
Lucio Vergani then making the trophy presentation to David Gostner.
Okay. All on the podium, please, the drivers, near on the first step, and up your trophy, okay, lift your trophy. Fantastic podium. Okay,
Who's going to be quickest with the champagne? Gostner. Got to be.
Oh,
Yes. By quite a margin, I would say. Top 3 then, Scuderia Prague Racing, the local team, have seen their driver get to P3 on the podium, Hendrik Viol. For Motor Service, Finetti Motorsports, Marco Zanassi, P2. And for CDP, MP Racing, David Gostner, he takes the Trofeo Pirelli Am win. In the Drivers' Championship then, for Trofeo Pirelli, it's Felix Herziger leading Yasin Ferrati and Gilles Redmans. Then it's Vincenzo Scarpetta, Quinn Wiedlisbach, Max Mugelli, Henri Acide and Dylan Medler. Ahead of Björn Grossman, Enzo Trilli and Luigi Coluccio. We will, of course, take a look at the AM drivers as well, where Hendrik Viol is continuing to lead the championship ahead of Marco Zanassi and Andrew Morrow. Then it's Mikael Verhagen, Herbert Geis, David Gostner, Anna Luskowski, and then Francesco Galli. Matt Rosner, Nobuhiro Umada, Otto Blank, David Akabadze, Danilo Del Favaro, Rafael Duran, and James Owen. Armin Arafur, Gianmarco Marzialetti, Martin Havas, Andreas Berg Sorensen, and Faisal Shayer. Of course, we have more racing to come from the Ferrari Challenge here at the Brno circuit, and it will be for our Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell AM drivers. Very much hope that you can join us for that race as well as we round out our 3 races here in Brno. So Copa Shell AM next. More to come from Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli AM drivers tomorrow. But for now, from all of us here, thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye. Hello everyone. Here we are out of Motordrome Brno in the Czech Republic. It's round 4 of our fantastic Ferrari Challenge 2025 season. And we're at about the halfway-ish point of racing for 2025 with the Ferrari Challenge. And here comes our formal and official welcome. Here it comes. Any moment now. In. There it is. I have to press the button, you see, and I wasn't fleet of foot. Welcome to Brno. It's an extraordinary circuit, I have to say. Around about 20 kilometers from the center of the Brno city. Having been to Monza, Misano, Hockenheim, here we are in Brno with Valencia, Barcelona, Spa-Francorchamps and Mugello to come. So plenty of racing, including those 2 weekends that we go to next that are both going to be in Spain. That's going to be hot. Spa, not, and Mugello could be either in terms of weather. When we get there, a lot of racing still to come, as I say, and very glad of that we are as well. Here at the moment, the track temperature is 27 degrees. Air temperature is a reasonable 21. We have had some rain during the course of today's proceedings, but it seems to have gone away for now, and I don't think there's any rain forecast for the next 30 minutes or so. My meteorological friend from Germany alongside me here, Nico, what's the score with regards to the weather?
Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, we're really lucky. The sun shines on the Ferrari Challenge as we have rain 30 kilometers east and 30 kilometers west of us, but we're in this nice corridor of no rain. Some sunshine, so we enjoy and we expect this race to be definitely dry, and Jan Sandman, who is our pole setter, should not have to worry about any tire choices. It's going to be slick all the way around. Hasn't always been that way today.
No, you're right. Here is Sven Schirmer, who will be champing at the bit to get by Jan Sandman, who you saw momentarily ago. Jan Sandman going from pole position, Sven Schirmer going from P3 on the grid. Big thumbs up from Sven Schirmer for the Penske Sportwagen Hamburg organization. Jan Sandman drives for Kessel Racing, and Andreas Koenig, who's alongside him, goes for Emil Frey Racing. And here is Andreas Koenig. And it will be a drag race into turn 1 between himself and Jan Sandman, I would suggest. Brno race 1. Those are the Pirelli tires on the 168 car, which is driven by Germana Toniella, who did a brilliant job in qualifying today. Really impressive. Qualified P5, Nico. And I thought that was an awesome drive in qualifying from Germana Toniella. Partner to Zeus Skrimpias, who, of course, is a Copa driver. This is the 110 car of Norikatsu Shibata, who took a podium at the first event in Monza. It was a P3 in the second race for the Formula Racing driver. But when we were last racing, it was the 4.574 German circuit of Hockenheim for our Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell AM drivers, and this is what happened. Final preparations going down on the grid in Hockenheim then. And as the cars are released, it's a brilliant start from the likes of Jan Sandman, Andreas Koenig and Sven Schirmer. Everyone runs a bit wide going through turn number 1, and unfortunately for Shintaro Akatsu, it was around, and diving to the inside would be the car of Andreas Koenig. Jan Sandman, though, had no problems whatsoever and took victory in race 1. Could he do the same in race 2? Only time would tell. With a minute to go, the cars are off on their formation lap, and Sven Schirmer was absolutely determined to be P1 going into turn 1, and that he did. Andreas Koenig took to the curbs, but wasn't able to find a way past the 186 driver, which is Jan Sandman. Pino Frascaro through the hairpin here. Had to run a bit wide to avoid any collisions, and Koenig having to make his way back from having been turned around earlier on in the race. And here from an onboard shot then of Sven Schirmer and Jan Sandman. Sandman had put the pressure on Schirmer for the entire race and ended up victorious again, 2 out of 2.
Yeah, and that means that our pole setter is coming in on a rich vein of form, as we see 2 of the architects of the success of the Ferrari Challenge.
Antonello Coletta is global head of Ferrari Endurance and Corsa Clienti, and alongside him is Andrea Miladazic, who's head of the Ferrari Challenge. And yeah, plenty of discussions going on there, and two top guys, I have to say. And they're the top drivers that you can see. To the left is Jan Salmon, to the right is Andreas Koenig. They are the drivers that put it P1 and P2 in qualifying, and they have Sven Schirmer and Norikatsu Shibata behind them. And yes, we'll see what will develop over the next 30 minutes plus one lap. Once again, the Germano Toniella car. So I was trying to listen in there, but of course she was going to speak Italian in any event. Guy Fave, or Guy 4, great to see him. Always have a good time with the driver of the 120 car on the grid, and he's going from P6. It was a really good qualifying from the Scuderia FMA driver, who's promised us a big party round at his place when we go to Spa-Francorchamps later in the season. So very much looking forward to that, and don't think I'll let you forget, Mr. Fave.
No. And I mean, all the fixtures in the calendar really something to look forward to, including 2 in Spain, Valencia and Barcelona, great cities, great circuits as well. Really technical, both of them, and really loved by the drivers. And then Spa, I mean, what a legendary place.
Oh, indeed. Indeed. The Richard Mille safety car this afternoon being driven by Mr. Antonio Tamburini, as all non-essential personnel have left the grid right now. And there you can see Andrea Gagliardini and Max Blancardi walking together there. They're both driver coaches. They're both hugely successful drivers in their own right. And they're both looking after Sven Schirmer this afternoon. So they'll see what they're able to do with Sven Schirmer, who, of course, is going from P3 on the grid. Sven has been a very welcome addition to the Ferrari Challenge. He's only been off the podium once, and he's taken 1 win in the season so far. In the meantime, though, here's Ludovica.
In the world of the Ferrari Challenge, every detail matter. Behind every turns and overtaking, there is a team of experts working tirelessly to ensure that each car is perfectly aligned to the technical standard. Let's have a look to the behind the scenes of every performance. From checks in the Parc Fermé to the analysis of telemetry data, from trackside support to communication with the race direction, every phase is designed to optimize safety, performance and reliability. The Ferrari technical team plays a key role in a complex and meticulous process that leads to optimized performance in the championship. During the Ferrari Challenge Europe, the team focuses mainly on 2 activities. The first is technical support for the teams, offering consultancy on technical issues related to driver safety and car management on the track through engineering and performance analysis. The second, technical inspection of the car in Parc Fermé. After the race, every car is checked to ensure it complies with the regulation and there are no authorized modifications. This ensures that performance is the result of the team's and the driver's ability. Finally, before every race, the driver's safety accessories, such as the helmet and the suit, are also checked to guarantee maximum protection.
Thank you, Ludo. Appreciate that. This is the Brno circuit then, 5.4 kilometers. There are 15 turns, 6 of them left, 9 of them right-handers. And it's a track that was opened back in its current form in 1987, as you've heard us talk about. It's been resurfaced. And to the best of my knowledge, apart from the testing, the Ferrari Challenge is the first to experiment with the brand new tarmac here. Cars are released on their formation lap. We are about ready to go racing once again with the Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell AM cars. We're bringing the grid in full from back to front. So there is the Richard Mille safety car, and here comes the grid. Alvaro Ramos goes from P13, then going from P12, it's Paolo Scudieri with Tommy Lindreth. A welcome return to Tommy Lindreth going from P11. Alexei Komarov, local driver, and Pino Frascaro, they're P10 and P9. It's Shintaro Akatsu and Alwa Mea. They go from P8, P7. Guy Fave, Germana Toniella, they're sharing the third row of the grid. It's P6 and 5 with Norikatsu, Shibata and Sven Schirmer, P4 and P3. And then on the front row of the grid, Andreas Koenig going from P2 and Jan Sandman going from P1. So that's the starting grid for our Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell Am race. 30 minutes plus 1 lap, and right now let's hear from our pole sitter, and that is for Kessel Racing, Jan Sandman.
Hi. Yeah, this qualifying session was quite exciting. We went out as a very first car, tried to set a nice lap, but the moment we set a nice lap, we got the red flag, so this lap did not count. So we go back in the pit lane, waited, and went for some push laps at the end. And yeah, finally at the end it worked out. And yeah, for the race, we hope, or we are not hoping, we're expecting to stay in P1 and hopefully finish the race in P1 without any issues.
Not hoping, it's expectation.
Absolutely, but the battle between Andreas Koenig and Jan Sandman, our two who will start the race on the front row, has been fierce, fair, but very entertaining. And Sven Schirmer, don't count him out. He's leading the championship, and not by any luck. He's earned it every step of the way. So if those two start fighting at the top, Sven Schirmer will be looking for that gap.
Yes, and he may well even try and provoke that a little bit. Well, all the cars out there on track, and this is a real roller coaster. We had Giancarlo Fisichella, the Ferrari ambassador driver, with us for our Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli Am race. And he was saying that, Dave, you're absolutely right. It is a real roller coaster, and you have to hold on for some of the corners. Really, you do. And of course, these 296 Challenge cars, absolutely awesome. The track resurfaced, absolutely awesome. Everything is set then for what should be a fantastic 30-minute plus 1 lap race with our Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell Am drivers. So the Richard Mills safety car will peel off into the pit lane, and it is the responsibility of Jan Salmon and Andreas Koenig around the final turn to control the pace of the start. The lights to the top of the screen for you. Lights out, let's go racing. Drag race, turn 1 is where they're headed. Andreas Koenig and Jan Sandman. Pino Frascaro trying to do a good job here. Andreas Koenig all the way around the outside of Jan Sandman. If he's able to hold on to this, that will be a brilliant start from Andreas Koenig. And sure enough, he has gone around and is ahead of Jan Sandman. Sven Schirmer tucked into that P3 place, but that was a brilliant start from Andreas Koenig. Schirmer is ahead of Norikatsu, Shibata, and then it's Germana Toniella and Guy Fave. So now Koenig will try very, very hard to build up a margin between himself and Jan Sandman, but knowing Sandman as we do, he's not going to be allowed to get away. Top 4 have broken away a little bit from Guy Fave, who is being chased down right now by Germana Toniella, having Norikatsu Shibata ahead as well. There is Pino Frascaro. But the top 3 now breaking away just a little bit from Norikatsu Shibata. Guy Fave having got by Germana Toniella. Pino Frascaro is next in that queue of cars, potentially, that would like to go by the very fast racer from the Ineco Rapata Corsa Ram team. But it's Koenig from Salmon, from Schirmer, from Shibata, Fave, Toniella, Frascaro, Scudieri, Mea. Then it is Akatsu. They are the top 10. At the moment, downhill we go, with Andreas Koenig, who has moved up into that P1 position and did so right at the start of the race by getting a very, very good start. Whether Salmon bogged down or not, we'll see a replay of the start in due course. But right now, the cars will head to put the first lap in the book of the Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell Am race. Just a couple of turns to do before they can do that. And Sven Schirmer then in that P3 place, not being chased too hard at the moment by Shibata. but that surely will come over the next 28 minutes plus 1 lap. First lap done and dusted. Awesome start from Koenig, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see the first 6 cars all the way from Koenig to Toniela have gapped everybody else, starting with Pino Frascaro a little bit. So it's effectively 2 battle groups. And from Pino Frascaro, this battle for 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, this is already very close. It looks like it could be heating up. Well, there is Paolo Scudieri and driver coach Stefano Gai gesturing. And yes, I mean, Andreas Koenig really was on his mettle and went all around the outside. Wasn't really sure if he could hold it at that speed, but did a good job. And the gap currently 0.4 of a second. That's not nothing, but equally, it's not nearly enough to feel comfortable in the lead.
No, he obviously, you make a good point. You know, he'd got to be brave going around the outside, but he obviously felt supreme confidence in the car, and it certainly delivered for him. However, Jan Sandman will not let him get away. I wouldn't have thought. The margin is up to 0.5 ahead of Sandman, and both of them are broken away from Sherman now. Let's get a look at the replay of the start from various angles here. Well, that was a clean and tidy start from where I saw it, and Jan Sandman had got the pace, but Koenig was just utterly determined to go around the outside, and that's where Guy Favre put himself ahead of Germano Toniela as well. Good job. He had to stay committed to that because, of course, the outside soon became the inside, and the inside soon became the outside. But he did. There's Paolo Scudieri ahead of Pino Frascaro, so that means it's a move up of position to P7 now. And this is how Paolo Scudieri did it. Racing room was left by Pino Frascaro, who so could easily have closed the door, but he didn't do that. And they were allowed to race freely. But top 2, as I was saying, have broken away from Sven Schirmer by quite some margin now. And as we put another lap in the book, the time between P1 and P2, Nico, is just 0.3. However, Jan Sandman has picked up in the space of just 2 laps a track limits warning.
Yeah, actually, which means Andreas Koenig is officially the fastest lap. Jan Sandman was actually quicker last time around, but because of the track limit infraction, provisionally the point for the fastest lap doesn't go to him, it goes to Andreas Koenig. Still, he has managed to bring the gap down a little bit, and I mean, what Andreas Koenig really, really wants is to not have to look in the rearview mirror and check if Sandman is lining up an overtake. As long as he can keep a second or more of gap, that would make him much more comfortable. But as you say, the top 2 have broken away more than 2.3 seconds back to Sven Schirmer, so it's a little bit down to those 2 for the time being, at least.
I think you've analysed that absolutely correctly, as our drone then brings us the fantastic shots, and you can really see the undulating nature of this circuit, and also the gap between P2 and P3, which you're absolutely right, is really, really built between Jan Sandman and Sven Schirmer. So on the speed camera, which gives you a different vantage point as well, you can see also the gap really visibly as Schirmer holding his own against Shibata, that's for sure, and Guy Favre in that P5 position ahead of Germano Toniela. So, Andreas Koenig, P1, 0.3 though is the only margin between himself and Jan Sandman. These 2 are going to keep themselves keen and clean, I'm sure, until the checkered flag. And I just feel now Jan Sandman is... Everything is up to temperature, tyres are up to temperature, he's up to temperature. I just think now, next lap, this might be where Jan Sandman really begins to have a go. Now, Andreas Koenig is coached by Giacomo Altoe. Jan Sandman is coached by Charlie Hollings. And both of those driver coaches will be offering and uttering words of advice, I feel sure, to their drivers, Koenig and Sandman, respectively.
Yeah, for sure. We've got three battle groups effectively for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6. And Pino Frascaro, who was running in P7, he's dropped down to P11. So in the latter part of the field, the order has changed quite significantly. We saw Paolo Scudieri's overtake, but Pino Frascaro lost a few more positions in the span of a lap.
Thanks for that. Germano Toniela getting right onto the back of Guy Favre. big progress been made by Paolo Scudieri. As you can see, the progress chart on the left-hand side of your screen, up 5 places for Paolo Scudieri to that P7 position. Next in his target sights will be Germano Toniella. If he can get on terms. The gap between Koenig and Sandman has increased by a couple of tenths. It's up to just over 5 tenths between P1 and P2. And then there is Sven Schirmer, P3. There's P4. That's 5-6. Before Paolo Scudieri then ahead of Alwar Meir, Shintaro Akatsu, Alexei Komarov, Pino Frascari, Tommy Lindroth and Alvaro Ramos. So, Paolo Scudieri with some time to make up to get on terms with Germano Toniella, but he's got 22 minutes plus a lap to be able to do so as they climb uphill right now. So this is the P6, 7, 8, 9 group, if you will, that we're watching, with Paolo Scudieri for Samo car at the head of that pack of cars.
Yeah, there are 5 seconds. The gap from Toniella to Scudieri is more than 5 seconds, so barring a safety car, it feels like it's 2 races in one, effectively.
Yes.
And in fact, almost 3 races, because Pino Frascari is another 5 seconds back. So probably there was some incident that cost him that position and that gap to open up. There is Paolo Scudieri and Alexei Komarov bringing up the rear of that 4-strong battle group. 7, 8, 9, and 10. And for Alois Meyer, it's really, really interesting. He wants to attack, obviously, but he also has to be very keen of the Shintaro Akatsu car right behind him.
And we know that Shintaro Akatsu would not need inviting twice to try and go by. That's for sure. Just a word of warning with regards to our driver that's running P5 at the moment, Guy 4, who has got 2 track limits warnings. And when you consider we're only on to the 5th lap, he needs to be careful. Cool. Well, that was a menacing look from the driver coach to Paolo Scudieri, Stefano Guy, that we saw on camera. Really menacing. Here comes Sven Schirmer then. And that is Guy 4, Guy Favet, the driver that I was talking about that has, well, is now up to 3 track limits, Lico.
Yeah, and that is, as you say, that is menacing if you consider that's 20 minutes plus a lap still remaining. He has to really, really be careful, or otherwise he will be slapped with a 5-second penalty that can grow if he is a repeat offender beyond that. Really has to be careful and not overdrive the car. A good start from him, but now it's dangerous territory. And Andreas Koenig and Jan Sandman kind of feels like parallel flight to a degree.
Yes.
Jan Sandman is not quite able to take it to Andreas Koenig, but equally Andreas Koenig is nothing like quick enough to shed the Jan Sandman car. It's just a question, will Jan Sandman try to set up a move in a place where Andreas Koenig doesn't expect it? Which is tough to do, because Andreas Koenig is really experienced, and he actually came up to our commentary position to watch the previous class and get some intel and insights. Was shaking his head because the weather was much different back then.
Yes.
Now he's got the comfort of a dry track, but he has the discomfort of a Jan Sandman pushing him and pushing him.
And that margin between P1 and P2 has not altered, really. It's seesaw between 4 and 5 tenths for the last, I don't know how many. So they're both as quick as each other. Ooh, Andreas just running a little bit wider there, allows Jan Sandman to get a bit closer. And there is no doubt about it, they are very, very equal in terms of pace. And yeah, Jan Sandman will try and push and try and get a mistake. And if he gets that, he will try and go through immediately. So you can see Jan Sandman almost ran the car out onto the grass then, trying to get just a little bit more momentum. Live Drivers' Championship, if it all stays this way, it would be 78 points to Sven Schirmer, who would stay P1. Schirmer running in P3 at the moment, which does mean that he gets a podium and he banks significant points as well. And yeah, at this stage of the championship, sometimes banking all the points as well, you can see how really, really keen Jan Sandman is to try and find a way by. I remind you that it was Andreas Koenig that got by Jan Salmon right at the start of the race. Just out-dragged him through to turn 1. Salmon, I would say, for my money, Nico, is looking a tad quicker now than Andreas.
Yeah, I would agree. But, you know, being quicker is one thing, getting by is another thing. And back in Hockenheim, usually the roles were reversed, that it was Salmon leading Koenig. Neither of them was flawless, even though the battle was really, really good and entertaining. Jan Salmon coming out on top twice. Let's see how it develops over the remaining 17.5 minutes.
One thing I will say, I could say many things in credit to Jan Salmon and Andreas Koenig, but Jan Salmon is one of those drivers that, because he's a relatively young Ferrari Challenge driver, he will perhaps go for things that we might consider to be sometimes a tad unorthodox in terms of where you would look for an overtake. Ordinarily, you would say no chance, but he can sometimes make it work, and I wonder if that's what he will adopt today, potentially.
Yeah, well, I mean, Brno is one of those circuits where you don't have that prototypical overtake opportunity like in Hockenheim, where you've got the hairpin and the parabolica. It's not that clear-cut here, so you kind of have to pick your positions, and very often, and we've seen it already across the races today, it's about pressuring and pushing the other driver into making a mistake, and then just be close enough to maximize that for your own benefit. Will Andreas Koenig withhold and withstand that pressure? That's going to be one of the big questions over the remainder of this race. With almost 4 seconds behind, Sven Schirmer really doesn't figure into this right now. No. It can all change with the safety car or anything like that in a heartbeat.
Of course. There is no doubt about it. To pick up on what you're saying about sponging or absorbing the pressure. Well, for the first 14 minutes of this race, that's precisely what Andreas has done. He has absorbed it, and absorbed it well. I wonder whether, right behind him, whether Jan will feel really, really pressured and be getting just a little bit frustrated, perhaps.
Well,
whoa, around has gone a car, Nico. Sorry, I just saw that in the back, and I think that may have been the 180 car. In fact, it is the 180 car of Alwar, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Alles Meyer from Go Motorsport and Inkster Racing. We've got a yellow flag localized. I think he should be able to recover it from there, even though, you know, the gravel bed is so soft, it does its job. Yeah, just a little bit too early.
Good avoidance by Shintaro Akatsu.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And we hope that he can get it out of there again, because that would avoid the safety car thus far. And yeah, as per the timing screen, he has brought it across the timing line. That means he has recovered there, and that means we can keep going. But it is that one of those instances that can change the dynamic of the race. All of a sudden, Sven Schirmer would be right back in this battle, and we would effectively have a full reset. But now Andreas Koenig, he's opened the gap just a tiny little bit, but it's really only marginal. And for Jan Salmon, the issue is you can run behind the other car for a number of laps, but if you're so close behind the other car, you're running in what we call the dirty air. It's not really good for the tires, it's not really good for the engine. You really have to manage that, and maybe at some point just lay off a little bit and come back to fight another day or another hour.
That is sometimes the right strategy, isn't it? To just ease off and let everything break. I'm not saying let the car get away, far from it, but just you know, take a reset for a lap or so before going again, because the gap has increased to 7.5 tenths between P1 and P2. So Guy Favre and Germano Tognella, P5 and 6 respectively, but you see that's precisely what Jan Salmon has done, I think, because he now sets the fastest lap and goes back after Andreas Koenig. So at about half distance, that's perhaps what he's doing now, and it's where he's going to pick his battle spot, I would think. You can see the front end of the Koenig car compress under braking as Andreas tries to nail every apex. His family are here this weekend, and Jan Salmon is pushing him for all he's worth. It's a fraught fight between these two, not only in the race but also in the Drivers' Championship too. Here is Paolo Scudieri who's being chased down by Shintaro Akatsu, who's done well to get on terms with Paolo Scudieri.
Yeah,
this is for P7, forgive me.
Yeah, Shintaro Akatsu really had great pace throughout last year. Hasn't quite been able to do it as consistently this year yet, but he's showing good pace, and he's now slowly but steadily building up the pressure and trying to get that P7 from Paolo Scudieri. But you know, Paolo has such great experience, and he has Stefano Guy in his ear as a driver coach. That is a combination that doesn't make it easy for anybody to come and overtake.
That is very true. So Shintaro Akatsu, push. And there indeed is Stefano Guy, who is the driver coach to Paolo Scudieri, whom we were talking about just a few moments ago. Stefano Guy, former Ferrari Challenge champion and champion in many forms of racing as Stefano Guy. Very, very successful driver. He knows what he's talking about. Hugely emotional. Really, really nice guy to talk to. He's a great guy to sit down with and has many, many stories to tell. Some of which are broadcastable, many of which are not. Andreas Koenig and Jan Salmon remain P1 and P2. For my money, Sven Schirmer is getting a bit closer to both of them, but we are beginning to get towards the final third of the race. As Guy Favre in car number 120, who goes to battle with Germana Toniella right now, which is almost academic. And the reason I'm saying it's academic is because Guy is going to pick up a time penalty of 5 seconds for his fourth track limit warning. But Germana Toniella has gone through. It was a brilliant qualifying session from Germana, and she's really proved her worth that they're on track in the race as well by being very feisty and very racy, and has moved up into that P5 position. So well done indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is a replay of that move, and Germana Toniella, you know, just nothing fancy, I say that, but very unorthodox on the inside, making the move stick. And yeah, Guy Favre, probably knowing that he had picked up that penalty, maybe thought about, well, you know,
I'm not going to defend it so steadfastly.
Yeah, absolutely. So good overtake, but as you said, Germana Toniella really, really good and shown great pace here, particularly today. And the Reparto Corsa Ram team, who engineer her, have had a rich reign of success throughout the day already.
You're right. 10.5 minutes and a lap. Koenig to Sandman now, 5.5 tenths. I have a feeling that when they cross the next timing sector, that gap will have increased a little bit. It certainly looks that way. So credit to both of these drivers who have been on the edge and on the limit through from the start of the race, up to 7 tenths right now between P1 and P2. And there I was saying that I rather think that Sven Schirmer is getting closer to them. That is not the case. And I have to say, Guy Favre with 5 track limits needs to avoid many more, because he'll be getting a cumulative time penalty. So the order is Andreas Koenig from Jan Sandman, Sven Schirmer, Norikatsu Shibata, Germana Toniella, and Guy Favre, who, as you can see, has a 5-second time penalty. But he's on to his 5th warning. So don't want to be doing many more, friend. Under 10 minutes remaining of this Ferrari Challenge Copa Am race, with Paolo Scudieri still absorbing the pressure from Shintaro Akatsu. This is a battle that's going on for P7. Now, Shintaro Akatsu is a tad quicker, or certainly was last time around, than Paolo Scudieri. But Paolo doing a good job of not making any errors, which is making it a tad more difficult for him to overtake. So the ML Ferrari Racing driver Andreas Koenig is leading from Jan Salmon by 6 tenths, but we're following the battle for P7 and P8 because it is one of the closest battles that is going on at the moment. And both Scudieri and Akatsu throwing everything at it here. And there from our drone shot and the telemetry on screen as well. Love that image of Shintaro Akatsu's car then, as it continues to chase down the Samo car driver of Paolo Scudieri. So downhill, where the car naturally gravitates to the outside, and here's P1 and P2. Just under 8 minutes plus 1 lap. What can Sandman do, Nico, that he's not done for lap after lap after lap previously?
Well, find a way by. That's the obvious answer, but it's also not very helpful because he's been trying, he's been putting the pressure. The one thing that he has to be aware of, that he's just on this lap picked up his second track limit warning. Now he's still got one in his back pocket that he's allowed to get away with, but obviously it means he has to be a little bit careful, because one more would put him on the edge of a penalty. So 7.5 minutes, he has to also be careful and not overdrive it. You know, Sven Schirmer in P3, we haven't seen him for a long time because he's effectively on his own. He is the championship leader. He's very smart. He's just banking points.
Well, interestingly, I've just heard in my headphones from our race control and our broadcast control that Andrea Gagliardini, who is driver coach to Sven Schirmer, and there we can see him, is telling Sven, drive in the middle of the track. Come on, give it more gas. Come on. Try and provoke, get close enough to provoke a mistake from Sandman, because it could be to your benefit. So that's precisely what he's being told, and we could see that as we split the screen as well. So at the moment, he's got some 7 seconds to make up. That's going to be a big ask in the 6.5 minutes remaining. But Andrea Gagliardini just saying, look, just drive in the middle of the track. Come on. And of course, driver coaches, that's what they're paid to do. Driver coach to Andreas Koenig is Giacomo Altoe. To Jan Sandman, it's Charlie Hollings. I don't doubt for a moment both of those will be on the radios to their drivers, anticipating what they need to do to stay in the places they are in, or to try and overtake the car in front.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, in the case of Sven Schirmer, now making up 7 or 8 seconds that the gap is currently is a tough ask. Now, but you always have to prepare for the things that you don't necessarily expect. And, you know, 2 more track limit warning against Jan Sandman, and all of a sudden the gap, the gap he would have to make up is significantly less. Still sizable, but what you don't want to do is then be in a situation where you think, well, if I had pushed 2 laps earlier, I would have been a position higher. So that's where Sven Schirmer has the advantage of not having had to overstress his tires previously, mostly being on his own, and having a quiet race. So that's, I think, is part of the rationale potentially from his driver coach saying, well, you know, you never know what's happening. Andreas Koenig, fastest lap, but it's only by 3/100ths of a second quicker, so the gap is not really changing, and we can see it on the screen.
Sandman is getting more lively now. He knows there's only 5 minutes remaining, and Paolo Scudieri and Shintaro Akatsu are going side by side in battle as Shintaro Akatsu goes through on Paolo Scudieri. That was a brilliant overtake from Shintaro, but Paolo Scudieri is going to try and come back on the switchback here, but didn't get it. So they continue uphill down Dale with Shintaro Akatsu showing a clean pair of heels to the car of Paolo Scudieri. So Shintaro Akatsu moves up to that P7 position. Paolo Scudieri relegated to P8. Here then the Shintaro Akatsu ID. And in replay, he set that up 2 or 3 corners in advance. You could see there in defense, Paolo Scudieri just running a bit wide. Shintaro Akatsu was able to get underneath the Samoko car and go through and pick up that P7 place. Well done, Shintaro Akatsu. Here now is the battle for the lead of the race, and Jan Sandman, Nico, is up to 3 track limits. He needs not 1 more.
Yeah, absolutely. The gap was down to 3/10 temporarily. Is back up to half a second. I say up with very much tongue-in-cheek. It's hardly anything, but yes, 3rd track limit warning for Jan Sandman, who now will have been told, you have to be careful, you can't overdrive. Theoretically, I mean, the gap between the top 2 and Sven Schirmer is up to 10 seconds, so could he cope with a 5-second penalty without dropping another position? Yes, he could, but obviously a 5-second penalty would mean that Andreas Koenig would be home and dry almost. Certainly the Jan Sandman challenge would have gone away, so he has to overtake, but equally he can't stress and risk too much. Now, if that isn't a challenging proposition, you better find one.
You're absolutely right. 3 minutes plus 1 lap, the fever pitch that can be experienced all the way around this Brno circuit is, well, heightened, I would say, because we've reached the closing stages of this. And there is Andreas Koenig, there is Jan Sandman. And there is Giacomo Altoe. And I think that Andreas Koenig and Jan Sandman have given it their all for every single lap of this race. And I just wonder whether Jan has run out of options here. The gap is up to 8 tenths between P1 and P2. Has he taken so much out of the rubber? Koenig has been relatively smooth. 2 minutes plus a lap is all that remains. I cannot help but feel Jan is going to have another go here. So we start this lap. And depending on when the drivers cross the timing line, there is the potential, of course, for the additional lap. But it's really, really close with the lap times that we've got. I would suggest it's going to be this lap plus 1 more.
Yeah, it was really, really close. I think you're right, but it might come down to a few fractions of a second. I also think you're right that Jan Sandman will have at least 1 more go at this. The Ferrari challenge is nothing if not entertaining, and it would be almost anticlimactic if this just finished the way it is, and Jan Sandman certainly has different ideas.
Yes, but of course they're both sensible. They both know banking points is more important than binning the car in an attempt to move up 1 further place. So Andreas Koenig, Jan Sandman then, 6 tenths between the 2 of them. Sandman getting closer to Koenig right now. Sven Schirmer is out of the equation in terms of getting on terms with both of them. So Andreas Koenig, Jan Sandman, I just so hope that it doesn't end up in strife, because it's been such a good race between the 2 of them. Really firm, really fraught, but really, really fair. So 30 seconds remaining plus 1 lap.
I think it's going to come down to just 1 more lap after this one. I think they'll just run out of time and hit the quadruple zeros before they cross the timing line. It's 20 seconds for the final second. They haven't reached the timing line. Yes, this is the final one plus 1 more.
Well, that, if nothing else, will perhaps motivate Jan Sandman for yet another attempt. And you can see him all over the back of Andreas Koenig now. Koenig is just trying to soak up the pressure, and he's done that so very well for lap after lap after lap. So out of the turn, the clock is on 0. They cross the timing line. This is the final lap. It's now or never for Jan Sandman. And you can see he knows this. Andreas Koenig knows he's just got to make the car wide. And, you know, he's done that all for I don't know how many laps we've done here, 15 or so. And it is Andreas Koenig, Jan Sandman trying to dive to the outside. What Andreas won't do, he won't react in a daredevil way, because there will be no point in doing it. Jan can be quicker than Andreas, but he's got to find a way by. And to find a way by is going to be really difficult. He's not been able to do it for 15 laps previously. He dives to the inside now. He has to duck out of it. And that was very fair. He realized that if he'd kept his nose in there, then there could have been contact between the 2 of them. It would have ruined both of their races. There are points up for grabs for P1 and P2. It's really, really close in the Drivers' Championship, and we're only halfway-ish through the season, so there's no point binning it all. Sven Schirmer, of course, is P1 in the Drivers' Championship, but look at this. Andreas Koenig, P2, Jan Sandman, P4. There's a lot of racing to be done yet. This is far from over, far from done and dusted. And I think very, very mature driving from both of the drivers that we've seen so far as they run downhill now on this roller coaster. It would be oh so easy to make a mistake and under that pressure. But when you've soaked up that pressure for turn after turn, for lap after lap, It has been a thrilling race between these two drivers. There has been nothing between them for the entire race, and I have to say it's been really respectful between the two of them as well. There's just a couple of turns to do. Surely Andreas Koenig has done enough. Jan Salmon has tried to throw everything at it. They will head towards the timing line. Brilliant racing from both of them. Koenig wins from Sandman. Wow, what about that? Here comes Sven Schirmer, some 12 seconds behind to take P3, ahead of Norikatsu, Shibata, and look at Andrea Gagliardini and Max Blancardi. They are driver coaching to Sven Schirmer, who is still the Drivers' Championship leader. I'm so pleased it ended the way it deserved to end, which was with those drivers crossing the line, P1 and P2. I would have hated for a track limit to have changed the top three in that race, Nico. And well done to Andreas Koenig, and well done to Jan Salmon as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Andreas Koenig, after that misfortune that befell him in Hockenheim, which arguably cost him a race win and relegated him to the bottom of the standings in that race, for him to have withheld pressure and to have mastered it and taken the win, I think that will feel extra sweet for him, and to celebrate that victory with his family, of course. Sven Schirmer, great driving. He banks a very valuable point. Dominant lead still in the championship. But as you say, we're only crowning the half-time champion after the race is tomorrow. And actually, there is no trophy for that.
No.
All you have is your lead. And the next race will be another test. Well, great shot in celebration. Andreas Koenig, great race from all our competitors. Another shout out to Germana Toniela, P5, best result of the season. And really good race from our competitors. Very clean race as well.
And I just think the quite clearly we've focused on what was happening at the front of the pack. But I just think really mature driving from both of those drivers when, it would have only taken just one of them to be out onto just pick up a curb or a bit of grass or whatever from the rain shower earlier. Be very wet and slippery out there. I think doing a absolutely fantastic sterling job, and well done to all our Copa Shell Am drivers. Brilliant race, really enjoyable. Well done to Andreas Koenig, Jan Salmon and Sven Schirmer. And you're quite right to highlight Germana Toniela finishing in P5 as well. That was really good to see. So drivers then making their way back towards the pit lane in the Parc Ferme area. Of course, podiums to come.
Absolutely, and another race day tomorrow, which after this race we really look forward to. Well, certainly I do, because that was a thrilling one. And it proves that it doesn't necessarily always need all the many overtakes. It's the fierce battle and the great defending and respectful driving that can be effectively just as entertaining.
Oh, absolutely. I completely concur. As Giacomo Altoe is the first over there to congratulate his driver, Andreas Koenig. The Emil Frey racing driver and driver coach there. Steady on, Andreas. I thought he was going for that. He is going for it. What about that? And there is Jan Salmon, who honestly gave it everything he possibly could. They were so matched. And apologies for any colourful language that you may hear from any of the drivers, the emotions. There's Andrea Gagliardini and Max Blancardi and Sven Schirmer. Yeah, really good, really good. And there is Stephanie, his wife, and daughter there to congratulate. Bravo, I think it was.
Bravo Papa, maybe?
Bravo Papa, yeah, you might be right. Confirmation of the classification, Andreas Koenig from Jan Salmon and Sven Schirmer. It was Norikatsu, Shibata, Germana Toniela and Shintaro Akatsu next on the chart, with Guy Favet and Paolo Scudieri finishing P7 and P8. Alexei Komarov. Well done, Alexei. P9, Tommy Lindroth, welcome return. P10, Pino Frascaro, Alvaro Ramos, and then Alois Mer. And that is the confirmed classification then, and we will be hustling to try and hear from our race winner, Andreas Koenig, who in preparation spent a race in broadcast with us just to see what he needed to do and where and when. Not saying we helped.
Well, but let's see maybe how many races and race drivers will be queuing in our commentary booth tomorrow to replicate that. 0.
Yes, 0. I think you're right. So the Emil Frey Racing 104 car driven by Andreas Koenig, and he confirmed that victory and did a very good job. Let's hear from him now. He is a race winner.
Andreas, congratulations from P2 to P1 in a very tough race for you. You start in a perfect way, and at the end of the race, you defend in the best way your position.
Yeah, it was really a tough race. I saw the chance to overtake Jan on the first corner, which really happened. Then I tried to find my pace. It was really, really difficult. I think I got a gap at the beginning, but then I saw Jan all the time in my mirror. He did a good job, but so happy to have the win here after a tough week. So thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Well done, friend. Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli races had been done, and it was time now for Copa Shell Am. Sven Schirmer, Andreas Koenig, all those drivers lining up in Copa Shell Am, ready to do battle on the track that is the Automotodrome Brno. Jan Sandman then, driver of the 186 car, Marshall standing by. We are ready to go racing. When the lights go out, and drag race to turn number 1 between Jan Salmon and Andreas Koenig. Germano Toniella looking good with a good start as well, and Andreas Koenig was absolutely determined to go all the way around the outside of Jan Salmon and made it stick. Paolo Scudieri was another driver that wanted to make up places, getting by Pino Frascaro. Stefano Guy was taking a look. He, of course, driver coach to Paolo Scudieri. Shintaro Akatsu was lining up the car of Pino Frascaro, and through he would go, and Pino losing out on 2 places eventually. So the Copa Shell Am race continued, and what a race it was. And you could see the grip was very difficult to come by on some occasions. Good avoidance by some drivers. Germano Toniella was having a brilliant race with Guy Favet in the 120 car, and that was a forceful but determined move to overtake. And then Shintaro Akatsu and Paolo Scudieri side by side. It would be Shintaro Akatsu that would take that little battle, but the battle of the race was for P1. And for lap after lap after lap, Andreas Koenig and Jan Sandman had gone for it, but in the end it would be Andreas Koenig that would be victorious. His team were delighted, and Sven Schirmer would take P3. Jan Sandman, of course, was P2, and Andreas Koenig celebrated atop his car. We're going to be heading up to the podium next and see our top 3 drivers up there.
Is all ready for the podium, Shell M class. Third on the podium, Sven Schirmer.
Here comes Sven Schirmer then to take P3. Trophies lined up.
Jan Sandman.
Here comes Jan Sandman for Kessel Racing. It's Penske Sportwagen Hamburg for Sven Schirmer.
Andreas Koenig.
And for Emil Frey Racing, the race winner is Andreas Koenig.
Winner team, the team manager, Emil Frey Racing.
Emil Frey, of course, on the podium as well.
And now national anthem.
So the mini version of the anthem plays out for Andreas Koenig.
The trophy are presented by
Giancarlo Fisichella, the Ferrari ambassador driver, is here to make the trophy presentations. First of all, to our P3 driver, Sven Schirmer. Well done, Sven. Still leading the championship.
For the second driver on the podium,
Jan Salmon takes his P2 trophy. And then on the top step of the podium, it is Andreas Koenig. Of course, Copa Team trophy will be presented to Emil Frey Racing as well.
And please, guys, drivers all on the first step, and team manager on the podium, please. Okay, near, up your trophy. Okay.
Lift your trophy up, please, if you will. I'm going to have to really speak to you, Michele.
Amazing podium. And Giancarlo and team manager, please out.
Right, who's going to be quickest with the champagne here? Koenig, in my opinion.
And now
No, he was lulled into a false sense of security. Okay. And it was, I think, it was Salmon.
Yeah, he did it. The overtake came after the race, so the points still go the way they were. But Jan Salmon with the champagne P1. I can't wait to see that battle continue tomorrow.
It's great. I mean, you know, there are some tracks that are going to suit some drivers better than others. You know, but Andreas Koenig, Jan Salmon, Sven Schirmer, and there are other drivers that are still in the mix as well. It is awesome between all three of them, and credit to them for delivering some fantastic racing for us today. And a special congratulations, of course, to Andreas Koenig. He was the victor. And here are the Drivers' Championship standings then. It's Sven Schirmer leading Andreas Koenig. Then it is Boris Gideon. And then Jan Sandman. They are the top four, ahead of Henrik Kamstrup, missing this weekend. Shintaro Akatsu still in the mix. Norikatsu Shibata is too, and Paolo Scudieri as well, with a lot of racing still to be done. Don't rule out other drivers. Charles Chan, Andrea Levy, Guy Favre, Pedro Frascaro, Germana Toniella, up 5 places. Then it's Alexei Kos, Komarov, Hassan Tabusi, Alwas Mer, Stephen Earle, Alvaro Ramos, Louis Peruskia, Fritz Muller, Lisa Clark, Alberto Duran, and still they keep on coming. So there we have it then, our racing done and dusted for today here at the Brno circuit. From Nico, from myself, from Giancarlo Fisichella. Enjoy these images, and we look forward to seeing you for more racing from the Ferrari Challenge tomorrow. But for now, bye-bye.